Sit back and get ready to have the most fun you ever had with an electronic device. Speaking of masks, actually, I just got these the other day. I didn't open them up yet. There you go.
Wow. Oh. Now, those were actually done pre-COVID just to hide your face when you go to a Giants game.
This is true. Now they actually work better for you.
That's right.
All right, everybody, welcome out to the Log Room. It is Wednesday, December 30th, 2020. Jersey Johnny coming at you. With me, as always, are Mr. RadioPete, Mr. Harry Lug Nutz. Say hello, guys.
Hello.
Hello, guys.
Hello, guys. Hello, guys. It is the day before New Year's Eve. And
yes.
and it is 2 days before, a day and a half before, I want to say, before 2021. So, will 2021 be better than 2020? Who knows?
God, let's hope so.
Not for a while, though. Overall, I'd say yes, but it's like the clock's not going to hit 12:01, and then everything's fine. Now we can all go outside and get strangers, and
of course,
shared straws that are going to be plastic again. This is not going to happen overnight.
No.
It's going to take a little while.
It'll take a bit. I got a feeling that it's going to take a little bit longer than everybody hopes.
Speaking of straws, and not to get off topic because that's what we do. Kudos to Taco Bell for giving out a plastic straw that breaks when you rip the top of the paper off.
Really?
So when you try and drink out of it, you get that, that sort of. You look at it, wow, it's a plastic straw, and if you bend it or move it or look at it with a harsh glare, then it just goes crack. So both joy and then immediate sadness thanks to the straws.
Turn it around though.
I had a life-defining moment at a drive-thru of a Taco Bell about 23 years ago, maybe.
I thought you were saying minutes ago.
No, and it was late at night, and I drove up. I had already ordered my food, and I drove up to the pickup window. Mm-hmm. And through the pickup window, I could see my food being made, and I saw a caulk gun come out.
Oh,
I saw somebody with not the best hygiene wipe his nose and then continue to make my food using a caulk gun.
Yeah.
And I drove away, and I've never eaten fast food again. And
fast food.
Well, I might have had one or two things, but certainly not Taco Bell. Haven't had it since then. And it was just one of those life-changing moments where I'm just like, maybe this isn't such a great idea.
Yeah. Well, I've seen the caulk guns before. They're full of sour cream.
I had a similar experience where the one time I actually went inside a Taco Bell and I saw them making the food.
Mm-hmm.
And since that day, I will not eat sour cream unless it comes out of a caulking gun.
Yeah.
So,
well, I mean, I thought you were
going to breakstones. You won't eat that. It has to be in a caulk gun.
I thought you were going to say you went to Home Depot and bought a caulk gun and were disappointed that it did not have sour cream in it.
Excuse me, sir. Where's the sour cream section?
Yeah, that would have. You thought
it wasn't necessarily the caulk gun. It was just the whole.
Yeah, no, it's
the whole thing.
If you ever want to not eat Taco Bell ever again,
watch them.
That was rare. That I think they outlawed actually being able to see them make the food through the window, but go inside and just watch the operation for a couple of minutes.
Yeah, it was something.
Something
about the fluorescent lights and the horrible pink tan colored walls and the dirty tile floor and the juggalo making
stuff that falls off the line and they just kick it behind them to
it was
there were a lot of hard drugs since then.
Nothing against Taco Bell.
No, but a lot of those memories of my going inside have sort of faded away. So but now I have the straw thing, and that could be a deal breaker too.
That could be a deal breaker, absolutely. You know what? There's probably a lot of restaurants you could go in, and if you're watching them make the food, you're going to leave.
Oh, that's why you don't want to watch the sausage being made. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
But they have a giant window. It's like going to the aquarium. Hey, look at us. So I chose not to.
And speaking of questionable behavior, how about Dwayne Haskins?
He's now working at Taco Bell.
He's now working at Taco Bell.
He's in charge of improving their straw strength.
That's what it is.
He's going to put his plastics engineering degree to good work now.
Is that what he got at Ohio
I believe that was his major, yeah.
Okay. At the Ohio State. Yeah.
I just wish Daniel Jones was as much of an idiot as Dwayne Haskins.
You know, I got to tell you, you're maskless with a stripper at a private party. Yeah.
Right. I mean, if you're going to be with a stripper, keep your mask on. Take your pants off, but leave your mask on.
Leave the mask on. You might want to put a mask on your pants, too, but that's besides the point.
Yeah.
Who was the guy that stole the crab legs?
I don't know.
Stole the crab legs.
He was an NFL quarterback. No. And he got in trouble. It was a number of years ago.
This like
sounds like a Johnny Manziel thing.
It wasn't Manziel.
Oh, no. It was it Cam Newton?
I want to say Deshaun Watson, but
it was somebody who was still in college at the time.
Yeah. And he was coming out, and there were all these questions about his attitude and all that. And I think he turned out to be an okay quarterback. I don't know. Maybe he's out of the league now. I can't remember who it was.
Jameis Winston.
Jameis Winston. Yeah. Okay. So
Dave Campanelli just said Jameis Winston stole the crab leg.
I remembered something.
There you go.
So, maybe Haskins just needs a little bit more maturity.
Yeah, so maybe he's going to be like Jameis Winston and be a backup quarterback somewhere.
Right.
Yeah, sure. Listen, it's not a bad living.
On that note with Dave Campanelli, too, he also is he's going on a limb and saying the Bills are Super Bowl champs.
Oh.
I don't know whether my jersey made something of... made him think that, but or maybe their play the other night.
I think they have the best chance of beating Kansas City other than Green Bay.
Other than Green Bay, yeah. I think if it's you know what I've said the whole season, it's going to be Green Bay and Kansas City, and I'm still sticking to that. And I think Green Bay is going to win based on how they perform. But we'll talk more about that later. Speaking of Haskins, though, how does how would he look? You think the Pats will pick him up?
Wait, but here, let me ask you something, because I'm a little, I don't know all the details on all this stuff. I'm a little behind on my maskless athletes hanging out with strippers. Okay. But wasn't James Harden maskless hanging out with strippers last week as well?
But his wife was there too.
His wife was there.
Is Dwayne Haskins married?
I don't think so.
Well, you need one in order to do that. That's the point.
Is it a little bit of a double standard? If he was a better quarterback, would we be looking past this a little bit?
All right. So throw this out there. If Drew Brees or Tom Brady, well, I was going to say if Tom Brady was maskless hanging out with strippers, Giselle would beat the shit out of him. But that's besides the point.
Yeah, he would need a mental examination.
Yes, absolutely. But
everybody gets tired of who they're with.
If he were, I think it would be overlooked. I do.
Yeah.
But
that's kind of I guess the question for me is, has he shown enough that he will be forgiven and get another chance with somebody?
Oh, he'll get another chance. Yeah,
I think he will too. Somebody's going to want him, right?
Yeah. But how smart does? I wouldn't. Well, first of all, I wouldn't be surprised if Jerry Jones picks him up.
Yeah, I mean, we've let people back in the game who have killed dogs. So I think maskless with a stripper falls somewhere below. Having an illegal dog fighting ring.
True.
Well, and if it wasn't, if we weren't in a pandemic,
right. Yeah.
Well, if we weren't in a pandemic, then half the team might have been with him.
Well, then they would go, well, he's a young man, and he's going to make mistakes, and nobody died because of it. But
if it was Charles Barkley, he'd get a raise and more airtime on Inside the NBA.
I think him letting go had more to do with his horrible play on the field than not wearing a mask with the stripper.
That was his second offense, right? Did he have bad attitude or something?
He's had a bad attitude. Yeah, he tweeted. He took some selfie when he got benched from a game, or I forget the story, but with all of that,
they wanted to put him in to take a kneel down or something, and he was taking a selfie with a fan.
Yeah, that's what it was.
That's the worst thing for the guy who's never going to play to actually build a little rapport with the fans. Again, all right, but it's still, it's the last. There's literally, I think there were 2 seconds left in the game,
right? And
they had to run a play. They got to put the kid in to take the,
Let the punter go out and take a knee. Who cares? Somebody has to get under center and take a knee.
But now, of course, it's magnified because he was, did something else stupid. And I don't know. Were they looking to get rid of him just to avoid controversy?
Probably, because he wasn't there. He got drafted before this regime was there, right? This regime is new. Ron Rivera and all of them. They weren't. But
the owner
he wasn't their guy.
And it was the owner.
The owner was, it's Dan Snyder. Obviously, was there, but
Look, he had a great senior year at Ohio State.
Yeah, but that kind of was it, though. I mean, how
That's all he played.
Do the Giants look smart now for taking Daniel Jones over Dwayne Haskins, though?
Fuck no. Fuck no.
Don't hold back.
The
Tell us how you really feel about
no.
Daniel Jones.
Daniel Jones is too fucking slow and boring. He would trip, get on his way to the strip club in the parking lot, and drop his mask.
It would fall off. So he would he would trip and fumble his mask, is what you're trying to say.
Trip and drop his mask, and then someone else would take it and run the other way.
All right. Well, let's get into the Giants. They won 4 in a row. Now they lost 3 in a row. What's with this team? Was it smoke and mirrors? Was the 4 in a row smoke and mirrors?
Yes.
Was the
beating
the Seahawks? Were the Seahawks just not there that day? Did they there the whole?
I mean, look at Cleveland this week. On any given Sunday, somebody forgets to play.
I would say
you're not giving kudos to the Jets.
No, they played better. Give them some credit. They won.
But. Yeah, just like I gave the Giants credit for you still have to show up and play, but
right.
I remember a couple weeks ago, oh my God, the Giants are back. Joe Judge is the new Bill Parcells. And I was just like, yeah, they're right on track to have the same exact record they had last year with the same. And did they get a little better? I don't know.
Well, the defense certainly looks a little better than it did last year, doesn't it?
It looked okay. It didn't look great last week. That's for sure.
No, it definitely didn't look good.
Yeah, against a team whose offense was let Jackson run the ball.
Right.
And the Giants couldn't seem to stop him. Look, I think you could say that the win against the Seahawks, obviously we were calling that an anomaly.
Right.
I would say maybe that gets downgraded to kind of a fluke.
Gotcha. No longer an anomaly. It's more of a fluke.
Yeah, an anomaly is better in the Giants' case or worse than a fluke?
I think an anomaly is better than a fluke.
Right. Okay.
To me, you had more to do with the anomaly. It was more because of you.
Okay.
And the fluke.
So we're downgrading it for the Giants.
We're downgrading it for the Giants.
Yes. I got you. Yeah. I agree.
And certainly for the Seahawks, you could say it was an anomaly too, but they haven't exactly. They started out hot and have struggled of late too. But
right.
I think it's less indicative of where the Giants are than we might have thought previously, I guess. It's maybe a better way to say it than stick a bunch of labels on it.
Mm-hmm.
I got you. Dave Campanelle just wrote in, not the Giants' defense fault when the offense can't put points on the board. How true is that?
Yeah.
How true is that?
The Giants definitely need more help on offense than they do on defense. I think their defense is mediocre. I think their offense is one of the worst in the league, and it's been that way all year. Now, you could argue their best player has been hurt, but We'll see. We'll see. They need a lot of help at offensive line. I think they need a new offensive coordinator, to be quite honest with you. And we'll see.
Well, let's talk about that. Is Jason Garrett on the chopping block? What do you think?
Probably not, because I think the expectations were so low, and there's a lot of excuses that could be made, legitimate and not so legitimate.
Right.
The Giants have some decisions to make on the offensive line. Do they bring Nate Solder back if he's interested next year in coming back? Do they move his name from left tackle to right tackle? Do they put? I mean, they need their offensive line still. It's improved.
It's improved, but it's still suspect to a point.
But it's still suspect, and I think they need to. Hit. Anything they have draft wise, I think they need to go after some offensive linemen.
Absolutely,
which should be there. I mean, they should be able to get the best offensive linemen in the draft. Is it a waste taking it out with the first pick? I don't think so. Their first pick, I don't think so.
I agree, and this is part and parcel of the offensive line right there. First half last week, Giants had 3 minutes and 26 seconds time.
Yeah, their defense was on the field a lot, and I think the defense has improved. And the Giants have some great players who I think are young and are going to be the anchor for that defense for a long time.
Right.
They don't have what the Giants have always had, at least let's put it, the last 15, 20 years of New York Giants. They've always been able to have a pass rush.
Right.
And they just don't quite have that this year. And I think their secondary is getting overworked, and I think that they're having to cover for long periods of time because they just don't seem to have the pass rush that they've had in years past.
Right. I agree.
And sometimes they're very good at it, too.
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing they did extremely well in that Seattle game. They weren't getting to Russell Wilson, and he was standing back there for 3, 4, maybe 5 seconds, or moving around a little bit as he does, but having time to throw and not having anyone to throw to. So
right.
There's some talent.
They have really athletic linebackers. Blake Martinez is, I think, one of the best in the league. They have they look good in nickel and dime scenarios. They don't have that ability to pressure the quarterback as much.
Right.
And in today's NFL, if you don't do that, I don't care how good your DBs are, it's going to come back to haunt you.
Yeah. Well, you know what though? Their defensive backs are dialing in. They need an edge rusher. I think their defense is pretty much, I'm not going to say they're 100% there. Obviously, there's always room for improvement, and these guys do need to improve. But I think these particular guys can improve. But I think they definitely do need to add an edge rush. An edge rush threat. If they were able to get Chase Young last year, forget about that defense right now. But then again, they wouldn't have had Andrew Thomas, and he has come along this year, and in shoring up that offensive line. But you know what? As far as Jason Garrett goes, my take on it is they had no preseason. They had no prep for the year. He lost Saquon Barkley in the second game. And the other fact of the matter, too, is, and this is something to think about, Daniel Jones had Pat Shurmur last year. Now he has Jason Garrett this year. Now you replace Jason Garrett. That's his third offense in 3 years, and he's in his first 3 years in the league. You can't do that to the kid.
I'm not sure
he's going to amount to anything. He's got to have a little consistency, and hopefully it works. So,
and I think they'd like to see what Garrett can do with Saquon Barkley with an actual running game, too.
Right.
I would tend to think they would want to give him an opportunity to coach that squad. Assuming everybody, knock wood, if everybody stays healthy.
And you know what? He's an ownership favorite. Garrett. He played for the Giants. He's a local guy. He grew up in New Jersey. His father was a coach on the Giants years ago. So he's not going anywhere. I don't think he's. He may go somewhere after next season if he proves himself. Maybe he gets a head coaching job somewhere. But I think that's the only way he's leaving, unless he just lays a complete egg next year, with everybody back. But we'll see what happens.
So what do we see shaking down for the most exciting division in football, as far as I'm concerned, as far as the playoffs here? Look, the Giants are a game behind Dallas, right?
Right.
But I think that they have if they win this one, then they have the edge, right? They have the edge over Washington.
They have the edge over Washington, yes. If the Giants win and the Eagles win, the Eagles beat Washington and the Giants win the division.
And the Giants win the division.
They win the division. And they lose and the Eagles win, the Cowboys win the division. If Washington wins, that's all Washington has to do is win. They don't need any help from anybody else.
They have the tiebreaker over everybody.
They have the advantage because they have the tiebreaker over Dallas. So all they need to do, they're the only ones in control. All they have to do is win, and then they're in. So the only team in the NFC East, and on the last week of the season that it is definitely out, are the Eagles. Everybody else is possible.
And that tie did not come back to. In fact, you could say if that tie was a win, then
if that tie was a win, they'd be right in it.
And they'd be right in the bag as well. Yeah, but it didn't come back to haunt it to anybody.
Exactly.
So if Washington wins, they win.
If Washington wins, they're in.
They win.
Washington loses. It's whoever wins the Giants-Dallas game wins the division.
Yeah, so. I still think I predicted this a few weeks back when I think their chances were 3%, and I thought Dallas is still the best team in this division.
Dallas could very easily win,
and they could, especially but Washington should be able to beat the Philly.
Hey, look, whoever wins, whichever one of those three teams wins the division, they're losing the following week. Maybe they sneak out a wild card game win. Maybe, depending on the other team and how they're playing. And we don't even know who that is yet. But
wouldn't that be something?
That would be. Could you imagine? Could you imagine? But oddly enough, though, on the other side of the coin, all right, if the Giants lose, nope, doesn't matter what Eagles do. If the Giants lose, if the Falcons, Texans, Eagles, and Bengals win. I guess it doesn't matter what Washington does, but if the Falcons, Texans, Eagles, and Bengals all win, the Giants wind up with the third pick in the draft. third pick in the draft. So they could, on one weekend, the last weekend of the season, they could either win the division or have the third pick in the draft. Welcome to 2020, folks.
Yeah, really.
So
I wonder what it will be.
I'm hoping for the third pick in the draft.
Well, that's a good question. What do you want to do? Do you want to win the division?
I heard Duke has an offensive lineman that's really outstanding.
I heard they have a special teams coach that they look in the draft.
Backup punter is what they have.
Yeah.
It's just so ridiculously odd.
Yeah.
It's crazy. But
there's a right guard who's playing for Georgetown right now who's not on anybody's radar.
Red-shirted freshman.
Right.
Yes.
Exactly. So, well, hey, we'll see what happens after this weekend. But you know what? I mean, could you imagine? I'm not even going to say the Giants. Whoever wins the division, whichever one of the Giants, Dallas, or Washington wins the division on Sunday, could you imagine them going deep in the playoffs just as a fluke? Just they just start playing good football right at the.
Sure, it is 2020. Why not?
Right? Why not?
And 2020, the team that's 6-9 goes to the NFC Championship game or the Super Bowl and loses to the Buffalo Bills.
Well, listen,
by missing a field goal wide right.
Right, yeah. There you
Washington's got a pretty darn good defense. That could carry them depending on who they play.
Depends on who they play, exactly.
Who's their quarterback going to be this week?
I don't know. What's his name?
Alex
Heineke. I think his name.
Is that going to be Smith? I don't know.
No, he's out. He's hurt.
Right. Yeah, if he doesn't get back, then obviously they're not going anywhere. But if he gets back in time for the playoffs, they could win a game.
This is true.
Who knows?
We'll see what happens.
2 days ago, Alex Smith was reportedly expected to start. So,
that's rock solid and reliable.
If the Giants clinch, they play the Bucks in the first round. Brady's nightmare. So, which is also the name of a beer from 902 Brewing. Thanks, Dave.
Okay.
So.
But, I would say it's more the Giants' nightmare than Brady's.
Well, no, the name of the beer is Brady's nightmare.
Right, but not this year.
Not this year.
Not his nightmare. Nightmare this year.
Exactly. So.
All right.
We'll see what happens. But you know what? Let's.
My point is, this is exciting. You got all these teams that might go. That could win the division.
So it's fantastic.
And oddly enough, Pat
on the edge of my seat.
Pat is on the edge of his seat. That is amazing.
Look, if we were all Green Bay fans, we'd be excited. We'd be like, yeah, okay, they win the division again, blah blah blah. Right. And now they got to get it. If you're the fans of Green Bay or Kansas City or even Buffalo, you're not satisfied unless you win the Super Bowl, or maybe if you get there. But if you're a Giants or a Washington or a Dallas fan, you've got something to root for now.
Sure,
finally.
That third pick for the Giants.
Exactly.
Really good.
Whether it's the third pick or whether it's a division title, you've got a real vested interest in this weekend.
So what about why don't we move over to that other team from
the world dominating 2 in a row, New York Jets.
Listen, if there's one possible
Is this the ghost of Chad Pennington?
My favorite part.
Right here.
I love that.
Gotta love it.
Yeah.
You have to keep using it. I mean,
If there's one thing the Jets can do well, it's ruin their chances at something good.
Exactly.
They wanted to absolutely make sure that there is absolutely no way that they could get the number 1 pick, despite how bad Jacksonville is and who they're playing, and they're absolutely what is their percentage of possibility to win? Less than 1, I'm sure. I don't even remember who they're playing this week, but the Jets wanted to just kind of say, hey, in case there was any doubt, we want to let all of you Jet fans know we're definitely not getting that number 1 pick.
Who are they going to take with the second pick?
Cleveland.
Who are they going to take with the second pick?
I hope they're going to trade and fill their holes.
Okay.
To trade for some picks, and they're going to have some cap space. I don't know who's going
to be their head coach next year.
Oh, I don't know.
Well, you know what? You know what? You talk about that. Did you hear what Mr. Belichick said about Adam Gase the other day?
No.
Did you happen to hear that? Bill Belichick was quoted as saying in an interview, and I actually heard the soundbite. He said yesterday he thinks that Adam Gase has done a great job this year improving the team.
Okay. Well, you know, I think he's protecting his.
Yeah, he
wants the Jets to keep him so that he knows.
The Jets lousy for the better part of the next decade by hanging on to Adam Gase.
It made me think right away, what is in this glass that he's drinking? Yeah.
Well, it looks like juice, and I bet there's a clear liquid in there.
I think there's definitely some.
It could be gin and juice.
Gin and juice.
He could be Snoop Dogging it in there.
Yeah. He's also somebody who had kind things to say about Cam Newton this week, and that it sort of left the door open that he might be their quarterback next year. So.
I mean, he left the door open, but I think that door's closing after next Sunday. But that's just my thought.
Belichick is. We know he's always been a straightforward stand-up guy.
Well, look, when it comes to the Jets, though, I mean, specifically speaking about the Browns last week, 4 receivers were out. I know, obviously, with the COVID protocols and everything else, but Mayfield still threw for 285 yards to 7 different receivers. And here's a kicker. Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt have been running all over the field the entire season. All right? The entire Cleveland Browns had a total of 45 yards rushing.
They had a shitty game.
It was a horrible game. That was ridiculous.
It's because the Jets are just peaking late.
Could you imagine if they peaked in week 2? And run away with the division. The Bills would have been looking up at them.
They peaked just in time to miss Trevor Lawrence.
That's all they did.
Their peak is like going over a speed bump.
That's right.
Whatever. The Jets have so many things that should be moderately doable that they will most likely be incapable of doing.
Right.
To right their ship. That's
on my Tinder profile. Moderately doable.
Moderately doable.
I don't have a lot of confidence that they'll pick the right coach.
I get a soundbite out of that one.
I'm moderately doable.
Moderately doable.
I have a couple good Yelp reviews.
One of my Yelp
reviews. At least you got the Yelp reviews. I mean, some people don't.
I left you a good one.
There you go. But
I don't have confidence in them picking a good coach, and they'll probably take another quarterback with the number 2 pick, and have that whole controversy going on. So they're still the Jets, just because they,
Who do you think the second quarterback in line behind Lawrence would be?
Probably
what's the name from Ohio State? Yeah.
Another Ohio State quarterback getting picked high.
Right.
Hey, you know what? Maybe Douglas just picks up. Maybe he uses that pick. Maybe he's smart. Maybe he uses that pick to trade and get some collateral back for it. And he picks up Dwayne Haskins.
Let me see who Duke's current quarterback is, because
there you go.
If anyone named Johnson, who happens to own the Jets, stays out of it, then I think there's a chance if Douglas gets to do what he does. Because
what he does, yeah.
I think he has a chance to do some good things.
But I mean, are we all in agreement that the Jets have a new coach next year?
Oh yeah. This time next week, Adam Gase is out of a job. They're not going to wait. Monday they fire him.
These two, if they win again this week and win out with 3 games at it doesn't matter.
No,
the damage has been done already.
I mean, I agree. I just didn't know if. I don't have the New York talkies in my ear every day. So
no, I don't think it's enough to the way things went last year when they won 6 out of the final 8 or whatever it was, right. And that was falsely seen as though they're improving and they're rallying, and it really wasn't.
Right.
They really weren't that good. This is just not enough. On top of the fact that you're losing that number 1 pick too. So
right.
Although that could be a reason to keep him.
Unless you think that, keep him until you get the number.
Well, he's not going to ruin Trevor Lawrence, so we don't.
I think the enemy is the obvious choice.
Let
me ask you a question: Is he on Jacksonville's list?
Of course he is.
He's probably on anybody's list who Needs a new coach.
He's on everybody.
So if you're Eric Bieniemy and you get to go to the Jets or you get to go to Jacksonville with Trevor Lawrence and start over with really no expectations, where do you go?
Go to Jacksonville.
You go to Jacksonville. That's where you go.
So my next question is, who's going to be the Jets coach?
Jason Garrett.
It could be. It's going to be a retread,
right?
If it's not,
I would love to see Tom Coughlin come back, but he's not interested. I don't think.
No, he's
107.
Yeah.
But
in his next birthday,
the Jets might give somebody else their first coaching job, but they haven't had a lot of success with that.
Right.
It's hard to. I think it's hard to rebuild with a neophyte coach.
Well, you know what?
Yeah, but who are the veteran coaches that are available? I mean,
maybe Bill Belichick comes back.
Well, most likely it'll be
that's not going to happen.
It'll be somebody's defensive coordinator. Instead of a head coach, and that's you don't want to bring in a defensive guy to work with Sam Darnold. You want an offensive guy, but
Matt Patricia.
Matt, that was a bad experiment. He's a great defensive coordinator, but I think I think he was a great defensive coordinator because he was a defensive coordinator for Bill Belichick.
A lot of the Belichick assistants. I mean, look, we saw it here in Denver with Josh McDaniels.
Yeah,
and they go back to being coordinators, and they do great.
Right, but they go back to being coordinators with Bill Belichick.
Who's come from the Belichick tree that's had a ton of success?
Well, had a ton of success. I was going to say, jury's out on the Giants coach, but we'll see what happens there.
Well, was he really in the Belichick tree? I mean, I don't know. I feel like the Giants
for several years he was there, and I mean he wasn't an offensive or a defensive coordinator.
He wasn't a coordinator. He was
a special teams coach. So
yeah,
but hey, you know what? Nick Saban was from the Bill Belichick tree,
and I really do think.
Romeo Crennel, kind of, sort of.
I know this sounds strange,
but
I think Trevor Lawrence is coming to Jacksonville with his coach.
With his coach?
Yeah, I think he's gonna make the move into the NFL.
That's possible. Which leaves the door open for Eric Bieniemy, or which leaves the door open for the Jets to get Eric Bieniemy.
Right.
So there you go. Well, let me ask you this: on Sunday. Frank Gore, became the third member of the 16,000 rushing yard club,
and a grandfather for the fourth time,
and a grandfather for the fourth time,
and a great grandfather for the first time.
Yeah, exactly. No, he joined Sweetness and Emmett in the 16,000 yard rushing club, just the three of them. But he also has a lung contusion. So he's out.
Yeah, but he's had it since 98.
1898. So, but
that's too bad.
It is too bad. But here's my question based on that. Did he play his last game as a Jet? Did he play his last game? Is he done? Silence.
I think if he comes back, the Jets are the only team that'll give him an opportunity. I mean, who else would bring, Frank Gore back? Right. Who else is that desperate? I could see the Jets doing it. If that's not going to, if they're going to be like, well,
maybe
we'll bring in old reliable, and we're going to
maybe he should be the Jets. He could be the first player coach since I don't know. He could be their third string running back and their head coach
since Dan Reeves. Yeah. Dan Reeves is
he could run the plays in himself from the sideline,
right?
And they would all be off tackle handoffs to him.
But he's got the whole book in his back pocket. Hold on,
3rd and 12.
All right, we got it. Yeah.
It's 3rd and 12. Yeah, we're running off tackle.
I think he will. I think he will.
3rd and 12 off tackle. Sounds about right.
I think he will be. I think he will be on another team, and if it's like, hey, it's just the writing's on the wall. I think he'll sign a 1-game contract,
1 week
contract with the 49ers and
retire.
And retire.
Yeah, if he wants to retire, I was going to say that.
Well, he can sign a 1-game contract with every team that he hasn't been on yet, and then actually circumvent the entire
him and Fitzpatrick and
right. Josh McCown. So, but
I could see the Jets saying, well, we'll just bring him back for one more year. We won't worry about running back this year. We'll fill other positions.
Right.
Well, I mean, whatever. He is what he is, right? At least he's he's going to give you a certain level of consistency, and he's durable. This is so sad that I'm trying to, find the positives about bringing Frank Gore back to the, potentially two or potentially 3-win team. And he's maybe the best solution for them at this point, given all the other things that they need to do to improve this team. Well, just bring Gore back for another
Just bring Gore back. That's it.
He might have played his last game. I mean, being on a 2 or 3-win team with the Jets, he might just kind of go, yeah, I think I'm done.
If the Jets lose Frank Gore, maybe they can get Al Gore.
They could. They might.
They can help him out there. Well, you know what? We'll see what happens with that. But my take is that by Monday morning, 9:30ish, Adam Gase is bye-bye. That's just my take. So,
well, listen,
anyway.
you guys can, you're either hoping for a division title or the 3rd pick,
right? Anywhere in between, obviously.
Right.
So
I'm hoping that they fire the coach.
Right.
This is the great hope of all.
It's the great hope of New York football right now.
What's the number one thing you want out of the moving forward with the Jets? I want them to fire their coach.
So
that's where we are right now.
But that seems to be the perennial New York.
It
doesn't even have to be football.
Maybe they'll hire Keyshawn as their head coach.
There you go, Keyshawn. Keyshawn is the head coach.
Certainly would be entertaining.
Just throw me the damn whistle.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, we'll see what happens. Well, why don't we get out of New York for a minute and talk about a couple of the other games that actually happened. Let's talk about the Dolphins game for a minute.
I think this was one of the few times I've actually been happy to see the Dolphins win.
I got to tell you, obviously all you had to do was watch the last 5 minutes of that game because the rest of it was kind of a little boring there. But how did he complete that pass? His head was halfway. His head was like 3/4 of the way turned around.
And am I correct in saying there's no penalty called?
Oh no, it's a penalty.
Oh, okay. I thought there wasn't a penalty.
15-yard. There's 15-yard penalty at the end of the.
He's Fitzmagic, baby. Yeah. Blood sugar, baby. Fitzmagic.
Listen, when there's nobody within 8 yards of the receiver,
he was wide open. He stood there for 20 minutes waiting for the ball to land.
Waiting for the ball to come down.
He threw a little bit of a flounder because he had no head when he was released. It's hard to point your hips towards the receiver when your head is being
when your head is being ripped off. Yeah,
well, look, the good part that might come out of this is maybe this. Probably not, but it might put something of a damper on the let's not score and we'll run the clock down and take a field goal. Because, maybe not, because people will look at it and go, well, there was broken coverage and there was a fluke, and that's more the reason that you lost and the penalty and all that. But still, it's a god-awful trend in the game. Just go in the end zone for crying out loud. Put some stock in your defense.
Exactly.
But, I don't know. So maybe this will
stop that from happening.
Well, listen. If you're going to force them, if you do that, then you're forcing them to put the ball in the end zone in order to win the game. You're forcing the Dolphins to put the ball in the end zone to win the game instead of a fluke play and a stupid face mask penalty.
Right.
Although you didn't. I don't know whether it was completely intentional or I guess once you get your fingers on there, it's kind of hard to let go.
I would rather the 7 points than the 3 points and give them an extra minute.
Force them to get into the end zone because that's all it took to get close enough to kick the ball through the uprights and win the game. So
it's so easy with the penalties and the rules now with the safety and everything else on defensive backs. It's all you have to do is put the ball up in the air, especially if somebody's double teamed. 9 times out of 10 you're getting a flag. And then the ball's on the 1 yard line.
Even if the clock runs out, you can't end the game on a defensive penalty, so they're still going to get another play. So all you need is one of those. All you need is a pass interference call.
Here's another thing on touchbacks. You start at the 20,
right?
Yeah, we got to bring it.
And how much time was left when the Dolphins got the ball?
19 seconds.
19 seconds. So there is literally, maybe what. 6 seconds or less, right? How long does it take to throw a 20-yard out, right? Probably 4 seconds or whatever.
4, 5, 6 seconds,
right?
somewhere there.
So unless you really run it down to 5 seconds or less,
where they have one play and that's it.
Right. There's no amount of time that is apparently small enough
but
for them not to get within field goal range.
Why is it that
in the end zone?
That you cannot play defense when under a minute left in the fourth quarter?
And nobody can, and that's the way it's become. You can't you can't rely. You're not allowed to rely on your defense anymore.
Well, but you certainly can't if you don't give them the opportunity. Yeah. Right? You can't rely on your defense if you don't put them on the field.
So Dolphins win. They're in this week.
I think so. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
They got to play the Bills. I mean, do the Bills does it really matter if they win or lose?
The Dolphins don't have to. The Dolphins don't have to win to get in.
They don't.
They just. Okay. But if they lose and the three other teams get in, there's 4 teams in the AFC that are 10-5 right now, and they're one of them. So if,
the Browns if the Browns need to win to get in, I think, right?
It's the Browns. It's the Bears. The Browns, the Dolphins. Who else is there? Oh, the Ravens.
Ravens, right?
And the Colts.
Right.
The Colts.
A lot of good teams that are probably going to be mad at whatever 5 and 11 team wins the NFC East.
Probably. But the Colts are the only the Colts are out right now. If everybody was to win, the Colts would be out. Everybody else would be in. But if the Dolphins lose and the other 3 teams all win, the Dolphins are out. So,
it would be such a shame for the Dolphins and the Browns to miss the playoffs this year because I mean that's really the story of the year. I think those 2 teams. Don't you think?
Yeah, definitely. It's been an interesting year for a lot of teams, but for those teams.
I mean, I'll tell you what, with all of those teams, I don't want to play any of them in the first round. I don't want to go up against the Phillip Rivers, and I don't want to play the Ravens with a chip on their shoulder in the first round. I just don't.
No, you wouldn't. Quick aside before we move on to another game. Something I actually learned. You may have known this. Anybody out there might have known this or whatever. Marcus Mariota and Tua. How do you say his last name?
Tagovailoa.
Where's the N? That's my question.
It's a silent N.
It's a silent N. T-U-G. There's a silent N.
You may just call him Tua.
Tua Tagovailoa.
There's only one guy named Tua. You don't have to.
Marcus and Tua.
Tua, you mean Tagovailoa or Smith?
Right, exactly.
There's only one guy.
Marcus and Tua. They attended the same high school in Hawaii, and Marcus Mariota actually mentored Tua while he was in high school. So that's interesting, and they played technically against each other, even though Mariota was on the sideline in that game. But I thought that was interesting. But moving on,
must be rough going to high school in Hawaii.
Imagine that.
What else do we want to talk about? We want to talk about
Saints. The Saints, are they back? Did they figure it out?
I don't know. It wasn't Drew Brees getting in the end zone 6 times. It was Alvin Kamara. So
Alvin Kamara for fantasy players. Alvin Kamara got 1,500 points on
something like that.
That was ridiculous.
Basically, anyone who had him just won their league.
Well, between Alvin Kamara and Devontae Adams for the Packers, between the 2 of them, in one league I was in. The first and second place teams were beaten by 2 7th place teams because they just happened to have one of them had Alvin Kamara and one of them had Devontae Adams. Uh-huh. So the Super Bowl is this week for that league, and it's 2 7-7 teams going up against each other.
Nice. Well, that's
so the NFC East has hopes.
There you go.
Realistic.
Anything can happen, folks. Anything can happen. But well, we'll see what happens with the Saints. What about the Bucs? They beat the Lions 47-7. Granted, they beat the Lions.
I think the Saints and the Bucs are in that level below, obviously below Green Bay, but they're probably in that second tier of teams in the NFC that have a shot. I think the Bucs are a good team. I think the Saints are a good team. I think they're both inconsistent.
Yeah,
and
there's a lot of inconsistency though.
Yeah,
even with teams that are winning, there's inconsistency.
Yeah,
I'd be more likely to put my money on the Saints though, just because of recent experience. And when they're not getting jobbed by the refs, they kind of have a tendency to get it done.
Oh God!
Between the Bucs and the Saints, between the Bucs and the Saints, the two of them actually scored just missed 100 points.
Drew Brees is the best quarterback. His last won a Super Bowl in the 90s. Yeah, he's I don't know. I'm not sold on the Saints. I'm just not.
I'm not sold on either of them, but I'm leaning. I'm leaning Saints.
If they can maintain the running game they had, they have a slightly better defense.
Exactly. It's not because of Drew Brees; it's because of Alvin Kamara. But we'll see what happens. Chiefs. They barely beat the Falcons. Are they? Are they struggling? Or is it just the Chiefs' MO? They just do enough to win whatever game it is.
They're bored. They're bored.
I think they're bored. Yeah,
they're bored.
Exactly the right word for it.
They're bored. Okay, so it's not. There's no issues. They're just bored. They need.
At the end of the year, they'll be dousing Andy Reid in barbecue sauce again.
Yeah, that's very, very possible. Dousing him in barbecue sauce. Not a dry rub.
No.
Not when the cameras are on.
For some reason. Immediately, the Andy Reid and dry rub together just. Shake it off.
Shake it off. Get rid of it. Figure it out. The Steelers. Did they figure it out?
They woke up.
Yeah,
they woke up.
I guess they feel confident in that. Well, they don't. They just want to rest Big Ben this week. So.
Well, yeah.
They're not
getting any better or any worse without him.
Right, not improving or changing their position in any way.
Exactly.
So we're going to rest
he had one of the most efficient second halves I've seen anybody have in football last week. It was just something kicked in like, hey, this could really be bad if we don't turn this around. Right. And boy, did they turn it around. They dug themselves out of a huge hole.
Yeah, against a pretty tough Colts defense.
Yeah, they were. The Colts defense has been aces this year, and they actually, for what they've done the last few weeks, they actually played a great, especially in the second half. They played a great game the other day. So,
we could have a playoffs that has Phillip Rivers, Drew Brees, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers. This could maybe wind up to be the oldest average age of quarterbacks in the playoffs.
In the playoffs, yeah, you're right.
Ben Roethlisberger.
I'd love to see the Colts. Get in and do something.
That'd be
kind of rooting for them.
Yeah, they're on the outside looking in. They need. They're the only team that needs help. Everybody
need help. Yeah.
The Browns, the Ravens, and the.
They hold their own fate.
They hold their own fate. Yeah, they're.
And even the Ravens win, they're in.
Ravens win, they're in. Yeah, everybody.
Don't sleep on the Ravens. I know they haven't had a great year, but I don't. There's something about that team that I just once playoff time comes around, I don't want to be trying to tackle Lamar Jackson January weather.
Well, let's look at it. Here we go. There you go. The Kansas City Chiefs have a first-round bye, and the wild card round right now is what you see right there. The Bills are in the second place. They would play the Browns at 7. The Steelers at 3 would play the Ravens at 6, and the Titans at 4 would play the Dolphins at 5. So the Dolphins, Ravens, and Browns all hold their own destiny in their hands. They win, they're in. They lose, the Colts could sneak in.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you guys this. Which is a bigger potential trap game? The Saints against the Panthers or the Bucks against – who are they playing? I forgot already. I just looked at it a second ago. Against the Falcons. You think the Bucs is that a bigger trap game?
The Falcons are the best shitty team in the history of football.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, they really are.
Because they can put up points in droves. They just can't close out games. And I think that's a bigger trap. Carolina's not a very good team. If the Saints,
they're kind of like the worst 5-win team in the league.
Yeah, right. No, they're not.
Like they're not as good as their 5 wins.
No.
Yeah, the bigger trap is
if this. But I think the Bucs and the Saints will win.
I think they will too.
What do we think about the Packers that win over the Titans? The Titans are a great team. Tannehill's been playing great, and
they're peaking at the right time. That's for sure.
I think it sealed the MVP for Aaron Rodgers.
I think so too. I think so too. 40-14 against the Titans.
It was great seeing Green Bay football in the snow.
That was a great game. I loved every minute of that.
I thought Forrest Gregg was going to come out and run a sweep,
absolutely
sweep right. Yeah,
that was a great game. That
was a pretty brutal beatdown.
Yeah, absolutely.
Derrick Henry's unit dread got filled with snow and slowed him down.
It became frozen.
His horn got frozen.
He froze his horn. Frozen horn sucks.
Is it legal to tackle him by his horn?
You know what? It's not a horse collar, right?
No.
So I think it's completely. You can grab whatever's hanging out. So
okay.
I don't know if you want to do that though.
Yeah. That's what she said.
Back to the dry rub with Andy Reid there.
Yeah, not while the cameras are on.
If it's hanging out, it's part of the uniform.
If you can drag him down by it, then it's legal.
It's legal, exactly. Oh God!
So you think they have a person who helps him clean that thing after the game? I mean,
he's got to have handlers.
I'm a Henry Horn handler.
Henry Horn handler. Triple H. What's your job? I'm a Triple H. No, that's that. What about the Seahawks?
Again, another team that I just don't know. They don't impress me, but they're not bad.
Yeah. No, I mean they could be touch and go. There's the inconsistency we're talking about, right?
They're still probably the second best team in the NFC.
If they want to be. It depends on how they play each week. It's ridiculous. But they have such, their defense is finally coming around and their offense is sputtering a little bit. It's like they can't get them. They get both.
It seems a long time ago when people were talking about Russell Wilson as the MVP.
It's been a while.
Yeah, there's certainly less confidence in their 11-4 than,
but they're 11-4.
Yeah, they are. But the Steelers had an impressive week. But
I mean,
they were 11-0, and then they weren't.
The Seahawks are shaky. The Rams are the team that you just don't know. You just don't know.
Yeah.
And they
don't seem.
And they got the best defense.
They certainly
arguably in the NFL.
I think, but the Rams don't seem to have like an in between.
No,
they're right. They're either they're really good, playing up the way we all think they should play, or they're capable of playing,
right?
Or they're bafflingly bad.
Yeah,
losing to the Jets.
Right.
You go, well, there's just no way that should happen. No way that loss should happen. But
well, we're talking now about. I personally believe that game against the Titans solidified Rodgers for the MVP. But there's also a lot of talk about the game on Monday night on the jersey I'm wearing right now. Bills and the Pats 38-9. What about Josh Allen? Where would you rank him?
I think I mean, if you look at the numbers, it's definitely Rodgers and Mahomes. I mean, but Josh Allen's number 3 in the MVP voting, and maybe number 2 in some books. That was a big win and a hell of a performance.
It was a hell of a performance, and oddly enough, and I said it the other week. This is the first time the Bills have won the AFC East since 1995, and ironically enough, Josh Allen wasn't even born until 1996. So that's just a little irony there. And Dave Campanelle, just for good measure, he says Josh Allen for MVP. That's his.
Yeah, he's having a hell of a year, but I mean, Patrick Mahomes is falling a little bit into the Michael Jordan realm now. I mean, right. He hasn't had the best. He hasn't had a great year. If you look at his numbers, it's still. I mean, him and Rodgers are just off the charts. I think you have to give it to Rodgers, unless Rodgers just. If he plays this week, if Rodgers just has a really horrible game and Mahomes or Allen just do something off the charts, I can't imagine it not being Aaron Rodgers to lose. Right. But yeah, Josh Allen is certainly the most improved player in the league, and I would love to see him come south from the northern parts of New York and come south.
Come south a little bit, yeah. Well, hey, you know what? The Giants could have had him, right? They wouldn't have Saquon, but they would have had him. So, but then again, what are you? What would he be right now here as well? Let's take a look at this really quick. This is the NFC playoff picture. As of right now, the Packers would have the first round bye, and the Bears at number 7 would be playing the Saints at 2. The Seahawks at 3 would be playing the Rams at playing the Rams at 6, and the football team, or for that matter, the Giants or the Cowboys, depending on who falls in there, would be playing the Bucks at 5,
and have a home field.
Yeah, and there's still a possibility for the Cardinals to get in. Depends on what the Bears do this week.
But the Cardinals have really fallen from grace, and to see the Bears in the playoffs is just, who would have thought that 5-6 weeks ago?
Well, in order for the Cardinals to get in, the Bears are going to have to beat the Packers. So I just don't.
I mean, the Packers don't have anything to play for. Do you think they even play Rodgers? I mean, who knows?
Well, it depends. No. If they lose and Seattle and or the Saints win, they don't have the first round bye.
Oh, so they have to play for their best record.
They win, they get the first round. If they lose and Seattle and the Saints lose, they still have it. Or I think
plus it's the Bears, so they're just going to want to beat up on them.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. The Bears, right? They're going to want to put the Bears down. You know what the
Bears
lost 5
lose
in a row, and now they've won 6 in a row, or whatever it is.
If the Bears lose, though, are they out?
If the Bears lose, and the Cardinals win, the Bears are out. The Cardinals are in. So if the Cardinals lose and the Bears lose, the Bears are still in.
I'd like to see the Cardinals in the playoffs. For some reason,
we're picking the Cardinals-Rams game, so because it's one of the more interesting. We actually have a couple of games that have some playoff implications.
Is what's his name out for the Rams?
Yes, he is. Jared Goff is not playing.
Who's their backup?
Woodford, something like that.
Oh yeah, Wilford Brimley.
Wilford Brimley. Yeah, Wilford Brimley's playing. They have a walrus suited up at quarterback, and he'll be taking the snaps from center. So, so that's the story right there. We'll see what happens. We'll see how everything shakes out after Sunday, and it all depends on that. Why don't we, at this point, why don't we do some picks?
Yeah, let's get to it.
I think we should get to it. Beaten by the coin.
Beaten by the coin.
I'm sure I'll lose to the coin.
No one wants to be beaten by the coin.
All right. Here we go.
What do we got?
Week 17, a quick recap of Week 16. And, of course, Jersey Johnny once again dominating the field. 6-2 last week, and now 54-17. And everyone hates you because of it. The really exciting part is thanks to my pick of the Tennesseans. Harry, you and I are now tied at 46-25. So coming down to the wire here, and I've been steadily falling from I think I had a 3-game lead at most, maybe 4 at one point, but all even up now. So we'll have to
it's riveting.
Listen, it's nearly as exciting as the NFC East.
And where's the coin?
The coin is 5 games under at 33-38. So
the coin would be right there in the NFC East.
Yes, the coin would be fighting for a playoff spot.
There you go.
So let's start this week. We have the Jets. I got to find a coin. Somebody took my coin.
Somebody took the coin?
Oh, no, there it is.
There you go.
It's in a pile of stuff. So we got the Jets at New England this week. And me being a Jet fan, I am going to pick the New York Jets. I think they're rallying, and New England is falling, and they want to end on they want to win one more for Adam Gase.
Yeah, that's why.
Yeah.
Exactly.
This is a tough one.
Yeah.
This is a game that could go either way.
It could go. You know what? I would jump at picking the Jets right now, but Bill Belichick's gonna have something up his sleeve. He doesn't want to lose the last game of the season to the Jets. That's just my thought. But I'm gonna go Jets.
All right.
I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I think the Jets are going to win this game.
Okay.
All right.
See what the coin has to say. Coin comes up heads.
There you go.
The home team.
They like the Pats.
They like the Pats. There we go. All right. Next up, we got the Giants hosting Dallas. I'll let you guys pick this one first, since you're the Giants fans. This is potentially the division title on the line, right?
Yeah. Harry, thoughts?
God, it's like watching garbage rot.
Who's the Dallas quarterback now? Is it Dalton, right?
Yeah, and he had a great year. He had a great week last week. He had a great year last week.
He had a great year last week.
I still think Dallas is a better team. I think Dallas wins this game.
They're certainly playing better football right now.
And that's the sport. Weeks. That's the sport we're talking about.
Right. They're not playing better backgammon.
Yeah,
they're playing.
Evan Ingram's shuffleboard game is off the charts.
It's off the charts.
They're allowed to
dominating.
They're a horrible lacrosse team, but they're playing pretty good.
But they're great at cross stitch.
There you go. You know what? Yeah, you know what? The Cowboys are winning this game. Giants are winning.
Yeah, listen, this is a chance for the Cowboys to get some sort of redemption, right? They've, because we had such great expectations, and yes, they lost Dak Prescott and all that, but there, so many haters out there who will jump at the chance to rag on Dallas, and now here they have a chance to win the division and sort of set things right. It's certainly in the Dallas fans' mind, make things the way they ought to be. So I think they're pumped up, and I think they're going to win this game too. So, there we go. We're all lined up once again. We may end up tied when this is all over, Harry.
Have to have a tie-breaking game.
Coin says heads. So, Coin likes the Giants. Once again, the Coin bucking the trend early on.
Look at that.
Coin's not afraid to go out on a limb.
Yeah, the Coin
clearly hasn't been.
Desperate to get back to 2 games under 500 is the Coin.
Coin's going to rally.
All right, now Pittsburgh.
Coin's going to rally like the Jets. Yeah. Pittsburgh at Cleveland.
Cleveland obviously needs a win to get in. Pittsburgh, Ben Roethlisberger resting.
Right, so this game means nothing to the Steelers.
Nothing to the Steelers. And Mike Tomlin, I believe, the other day hinted that there might be 1 or 2 other guys who are going to rest. So this may very well not be a.
Here's the interesting thing. Had Cleveland gone in and done what I think everybody expected them to do and beat the Jets, I don't know, 34-17 or something, I would have no hesitancy in picking the Browns. But what happened to the Browns? A team that was on a steady rise, playing great football. How could they go in and lose to the Jets? I just don't get it. And is this too easy to say, okay, Roethlisberger's not playing, they might rest some other people, the Browns have to win? It just seems too obvious a choice to pick the Browns.
Right.
So does that mean you're taking Pittsburgh?
Does that mean...
Having said that, I'm going to pick the Browns.
I'm going with the Browns on this one. I think last week was a fluke. I think that Mayfield was just throwing up his game, not having his 4 targets that he normally throws to.
Sure.
It will be nice having the game plan. They were playing the Jets. A lot of reasons.
Yeah.
So the Browns are
winning. Yeah, it's. I don't know. What have we thought a lot of the Pittsburgh. Well, maybe not a lot, but more of the Pittsburgh defense before they went on their little losing streak.
Well, they played what? 7 bad halves of football in a row, and then finally they said, "You know what? Let's win this game." I don't know.
But now they're going back and they're going to, again, they're not going to have their starting quarterback. I'm tempted to pick them.
Yeah.
And who's their backup? Mason
Rudolph.
As long as he doesn't call anybody any bad names.
As long as somebody doesn't hit him with their helmet.
Yeah. Because he's going to be playing Myles Garrett. So.
Wasn't that Cleveland?
Yeah. So,
if I'm like
game. Pittsburgh won that game?
Yeah.
Last year? Yeah, Pittsburgh won that game.
All right, so then I'm going to go with Cleveland. They want revenge. They want to kill him. And
if Mike Tomlin's a smart coach, if you have nothing to play for, and I wouldn't play anybody of
anybody that's nursing any injuries, anybody that was close.
And the only I could see him saying, "Okay, I'm gonna play Roethlisberger for 1 half. We're gonna try to get some consistency back," but he's not. And I don't think they care about this game.
And he's not going to risk getting Ben hurt for nothing.
I wouldn't risk getting anybody hurt.
Right.
Yeah. All right. So coin says heads, and that is Cleveland. So there we go.
We're in lockstep there.
Lockstep there. All right. The other game in the NFC East, the exciting NFC East, Washington, hosted by the Philadelphia Eagles. And the tie doesn't nothing for Philly in this case. So ha ha ha. And Washington obviously has potential to win the division as well. So
who's starting for the Eagles at quarterback?
Jason Hurt.
Jalen Hurts.
Right?
Jalen Hurts, you mean?
Jalen Hurts, yeah.
If it was Jason Hurts, I'd probably
Jalen Hurts, everybody.
Yeah. Well, this will be an interesting test for Hurts, right? We've seen some good things. He's energized the team. He's also shown some rough edges going up against a pretty good Washington defense.
He looked like a rookie last week.
A good Washington
before, but he looked like a rookie last week.
That has a must-win game with a guy who hasn't played all year. This is the third-string quarterback in a must-win game.
Yeah.
That's a lot to put on somebody.
I'm gonna go with the football team.
You are,
and that's not a dodge. I'm picking the football team.
Mm-hmm.
You are picking the football team. I'm going to pick the Eagles. I'm actually going to pick the Eagles, and you should be happy about that. If I'm right on both of those picks, your second team Cowboys win the division there, RadioPete. But I'm thinking the Eagles.
It's going to be more painful when
picking NFC East games is just
they have a I know, but what's his name, Heineke or whatever. They have nobody starting at quarterback, so they're relying on their defense, right? And Philly's got. They've had a few weeks to game plan, I suppose, but yeah, it's going to be. It could be a toss up either way. But it's going to come down to the Eagles' offense versus Washington's defense, right? I think Eagles are going to
Washington's defense in that matchup against Jalen Hurts.
It just depends on what he can do. You see we saw what the Giants did against Washington defense. And granted, Washington's defense is playing a little bit better football now than they were when they played the Giants then. But you can run on them. You just can't really throw on them. And if Jalen Hurts can get out there and run around a little bit, I think the Eagles are winning. I'm taking the Eagles.
Yeah, I would guess I would say what other weapons do the Eagles have? If you contain Hurts, then what else do they have?
Exactly.
So,
Harry,
Mr. Nuts,
Mr. Nuts.
I just don't have a lot of confidence. I want to pick the Eagles. I don't like picking Washington with a third-string quarterback. Although if Alex Smith was starting,
fourth string at this point.
Yeah, if Alex Smith was in there, I would say.
If Alex Smith was in there, I'd be picking Washington too.
This Eagles team has not beaten anybody all year.
Do we know that Smith is not starting?
We don't know.
I'm pretty sure. I'll take a look while you pick here.
Okay. All right. Let's see. Alex Smith. He sat out practice. Washington quarterback Alex Smith sits out practice Wednesday as planned. He is.
Let me guess. Questionable for Sunday.
Questionable.
Yeah. No.
That usually means he's going to play.
God, this is hard. I'm gonna go. Fuck. Who the hell knows? I can't.
Taylor Heineke. Taylor Heineke
have not beaten anybody all year. And didn't Washington beat them in their first matchup?
They did.
But that was not with the fourth string.
Not with Jalen Hurts.
Not with an eighth string quarterback. Right, and Philly didn't have Hurts on the field at that time.
They didn't. Exactly. They had
Carson. They had Carson. The horrible Carson Wentz.
So. Yeah, I don't know.
The NFC East it's tough, man. This is the most exciting division in football. Even though everybody sucks, it's still, they're all down in the dregs together. It makes it exciting. All right, let's go. Come on, 5 seconds.
All right, I'm going to go with the stupid Washington football team.
There you go. Can I put an amendment on my pick?
Yeah.
Why not?
Why the hell not? Right. If Alex Smith starts, Washington's winning. If Alex Smith does not start, the Eagles are winning.
Well, listen. Hopefully, Harry and I can pick up a game on you this week.
There you go.
And have slightly less shame.
Just talk about it for next.
Oh, that's right. The Eagles beat New Orleans. That was their big win.
Yeah. They beat them, so.
That wasn't a fluke.
They've lost to every other team. Obviously, they beat the Giants in Dallas, which they do every year. They also, but that was their big win, was against New Orleans, which if I remember correctly, was without Drew Brees.
Yeah,
it was without Drew Brees. Yeah, they had.
This is the least sure I've ever been of any pick all year. Yeah, we'll go with Washington.
All right.
Who cares?
Coin says heads, home team, Philly. So there you go.
Oh, great. Yeah. I'm with the coin.
Yeah, Jalen Hurts will probably throw 9 touchdown passes. Who knows?
He'll run for 3 and, maybe throw for 1.
Yeah.
And then another game with some playoff implications is Arizona, hosted by the LA Rams.
Arizona hosted by the Rams.
This is boy. I have to think that the Rams defense is going to show up. And Kyler Murray, look, I had early success, right? Very mobile, does a lot of things well with his legs mostly. Although he's made some strides with his passing game, but not necessarily his strongest suit.
Right.
But he's a rookie, and people kind of figured him out. And if you can keep him contained, then you have a better chance against him. I have to think the Rams are going to show up this week, so I'm going to pick the Rams.
You're picking the Rams.
I'm going to pick the Rams.
Well, they beat the Cardinals a few weeks back, right? But that was obviously with Jared Goff.
With Jared Goff, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not necessarily sure. I mean, if they had a decent backup, I wouldn't necessarily. Goff's been really inconsistent.
Right.
Yeah, that's just the thing. I mean, they've won some games where he hasn't played well, and obviously lost some games where he hasn't played well, and won most of the games where he has played well. So I don't know. I think they can. I think they can do enough. I think they can outscore Arizona. I think they can hold Arizona's points down and score enough to win the game against them Cardinals.
Yeah,
tough though. It's a tough pick.
It is a tough pick. I'm gonna say they're gonna bounce back. I'm gonna say that their defense is gonna be strong. Arizona, I'd like to see Arizona get there, but I don't think because I don't think the Bears are winning their game. So if Arizona was to win, the Bears would be out and Arizona would be in. So but unfortunately, there's not going to be any enticement for that because the games are being played at the same time. So it's not like one's at 1 and one's at 4. So
right.
But they're both late games. But
speaking of that, just as a side note, something I think I read today that the Colts are not going to put the other scores, the results of any other games up during their game. They don't want.
I heard they're
done before. That hasn't been done before.
I heard they're going to play with their helmets off.
They're going to play with their helmets what?
Off.
Well, they're all going to wear Andrew Luck
play with their helmets.
They're all going to wear Andrew Luck jerseys.
That's right.
And then take their helmets off.
John, did you pick the Rams? I heard.
I picked the Rams. Yeah.
I'm going to go with the Rams. I'm going to go with the Rams too. Again, the Rams are just such an inconsistent team, but I think Aaron Darnold's going to start at quarterback. He's going to go both ways. So imagine trying to tackle him with all the. That'd be crazy. That'd make Cam Newton look like a Darren Sproles.
Yeah, maybe pretty close.
Maybe not that, but yeah.
All right. Coin comes up tails.
Like Arizona.
Like Arizona. So there we go.
Coin bucking the trend. Look at that.
So once again, no, we don't have anything. We're all locked up.
We're all locked up
this week.
Except for
except for your pick of Philly.
Except for my pick of Philly. So you two are going to need a tiebreaker.
I may have to change one of my picks. Nah, you know what? We got the playoffs, right? We're going to be picking through the playoffs.
So. Well, are we going to continue these through the playoffs, or are we going to
sure right through the NBA playoffs?
Listen, if we're going to be tied, and we've got to have we got to
go through the playoff.
Yeah. All right.
There you go.
There you go. Those are our picks.
Right. And in the playoffs, we can actually pick all the games and not have to worry about the Giants and Jets.
This is
some obscure Thursday night Viking Brown game.
We'll have 6 games. Then we'll have.
They'll actually be hard games to pick.
6 games, 4 games, 2 games, and 1 game. Those are the weeks.
There we go.
And we can pick the Pro Bowl too, the virtual Pro Bowl.
And if we're still tied up and we pick the same Super Bowl winner, then we have to pick the score.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, listen, if we end up tied, then I'll fire up Super Tecmo Bowl 3.
Right. And then you automatically win because I don't even know what that is.
Well, no, I'll put the 2 teams on computer.
Okay.
And we can watch the game. I can record the game, and then we can put the results up on the webpage.
And we'll pick that up there.
That could be a show. It would probably take about 20 minutes to play the whole game.
Yeah, we'll do a 20-minute show on Tecmo Bowl.
I'll send Johnny. I'll send you the video. And you just put it up there, and that will be how we decide our picks.
Exactly. That works.
And I'll let you pick first, Harry.
All right.
Thanks.
Well, those are our picks this week. So, well, there you go. Beaten by the.
You don't know what Super Tecmo Bowl is?
You know what Super Tecmo Bowl is.
I don't.
For the Super NES game system?
What is NES?
Nintendo Entertainment System.
Nintendo. National Electrical Society?
Didn't you play
Super
video
Nintendo?
games?
I played video games. I never had Nintendo.
Oh, were you a PlayStation guy?
Atari. That's the last video game I had.
I'm
serious.
Which system what was the last system you had?
Atari.
Well, there was more than one.
Well,
the first one.
Yeah, the shitty one with the 2 joysticks and pawn.
Nice.
Yeah. I never had a game. What are these things called now? I don't know.
Well, listen, I got all these emulators now that I can play all these games.
Yeah, but
you love it.
We said we weren't going to talk about our sex lives on this podcast.
Well, listen, I have an emulator. Her name is.
You have an emulator.
An emulator.
You keep it in your bedside table.
Listen, you come to New York.
How many batteries is that emulator?
Here, I'll put it this way. I don't last long, so the batteries do.
Okay. So you hook it up to your car battery.
And you come to New York, you come to my house, and we'll play I got all the NES. I got like 1,000, 1,200 NES games. Any game you want to play.
That is amazing.
What is NES? What does it stand for?
That's
Nintendo.
Okay. And we can play the old Atari games, too.
Nice.
Yes.
We can play Castle and...
nice. Do you have a Donkey Kong?
Pac-Man. We have. I can give you any of the Donkey Kong games.
Nice. A while back, I had a Wii.
A Wii. What are the two? What are the big ones now? What PlayStation and what's the other one? I don't know.
Well, the PlayStation 5 and I guess the Xbox.
Xbox. There you go.
But actually, speaking of that, for any of our listeners that are into video games, Xbox Live has a great deal going on right now. You can get 90 days for $1.
90 days for $1.
Pretty much full access to their catalog.
Now, do you get to pick the emulator?
Well, no, you don't. You need.
Does she have blonde hair, or does it have to be a brunette?
It could be half and half.
All right.
The carpet does not have to match the drapes.
Mix, just straight down the middle.
Straight down the middle.
So, so if you want to check out some, if you have a streaming box or whatever, or even if you have an Xbox, you can pretty much check out the full catalog for $1 for 90 days, and then you just got to cancel because I think it's $15 a month after that. But
I have ColecoVision.
There you go.
I can play ColecoVision games. I can tell you, I can play any of the old systems: Neo Geo, the 3DS, 3DO, PlayStation, any of the handhelds.
It's pretty exciting.
We got the Atari 2600, the 5200, the 7800. Mm-hmm. The only one that doesn't really work well is the old Atari Jaguar. But I actually have a Jaguar console.
What is it? I didn't know Atari had different names. What was the Atari Jaguar?
That was in theory, the first 64-bit game. It wasn't really, but it was like one of the first games where they actually
what was the second one after regular Atari? It was 2600?
Well, 2600 was kind of the first console cartridge game.
Oh, okay.
And that was Pac-Man and Castle and a bunch of that. That's
Frogger and Pitfall.
Right. And then you had the 5200, you had the 7800.
The Jaguar didn't have the cartridges that went into it?
It did. It did. But it was a much more graphically advanced game system. And they had some really cool games. I think I have one game left. I gave I gave all my games to my brother-in-law. We both had the system.
Pitfall and Frogger were really the ones that the graphics did really well. I think they weren't made by it, so they were like a third party who made them. Anyway.
Yeah, Pitfall was Activision, I believe.
Activision, there you go.
Activision, yeah.
The Activision hockey game was pretty good too.
Is it Missile Command too, or Defender?
Missile Command, yep, Defender, and Blades of Steel was my favorite.
Asteroids.
Yeah, but you can play all those games now on various. You don't have to have the actual system that they can run on. You run all those.
I just like the old Atari joysticks. They were very easy to play with.
Actually, you know what? You can't really see it, but
what is going on back there? It looks like a dressing room.
Look at see the shelves next to where it says Jets.
Yeah.
There's a box on that top shelf.
Yep.
Yes, that's where the emulator sits.
Inside that box is an Atari 2600.
That's
nice.
Crazy.
So
last time I saw an emulator, she had a streaming box. So,
well, it's very common because they don't have a health plan,
right?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of them will we call it a weeping box.
Weeping box, right?
But inside that box is an Atari 2600 with joysticks and a handful of games.
Nice.
So I may take that out and put that somewhere. I'm in the room.
How about this? If we're tied, then we have an asteroid.
Have an Atari off?
Yeah, Atari off.
Atari off.
Which usually costs extra, by the way.
That's right. Yes. She'll come over and play Atari.
Now when I took a sip.
The emulator. Emulators.com.
Spit take there.
Did we have an actual spit take?
Almost. This close.
That's my
goal. The emulators.
There you go. The emulators.
So that's right. I don't know how we got on that topic.
This has been the video game portion of the podcast for this evening.
It's been a good 8-9 minutes on it.
So, we haven't even gotten to the top 10.
So why don't we get to the top 10 now?
All right then.
And, top 10 Atari games.
Top 10 this week is top 10 defensive backs. I'm sorry, it's not top 10 defensive backs. That was last week. I'll actually have to type it in here. Actually, I'm not even going to bother. Top 10 kickoff and punt returners, folks. Top 10 kickoff and punt returners of all time. Here we go. I'm actually going to change it right here. Top 10. There we go. Top 10 kickoff and punt returners of all time. There we go.
Nice.
I will. We again, folks. We had a couple of extras in there, so we have a 10A and 10B. So we have an 11 for our top 10 today. I will start with number 10B. Number 10B is Mr. Glenn Milburn. Glenn Milburn. And there he is right there. Glenn Milburn, folks. Glenn Kurt Milburn was drafted in the second round, pick number 43, of the 1993 draft by the Denver Broncos. He spent time on the Broncos, the Lions, briefly in the Packers in an offseason, and then went to the Bears and was with the Bears for a few years, and then he finished his career with the Chargers. He was nominated at 2 Pro Bowls. Was a 2-time All-Pro as well, but he his punt return yardage was 2,984 yards, and his kickoff return yardage was 9,788 yards. He had 3 return touchdowns as well. Just a pretty damn good.
Probably the best unknown returner of all time.
Yeah, you're not going to know him, but he was.
The numbers were there.
Numbers were there for little known. He was the best of the little known returners right there. So number 10, Mr. Glenn Milburn. Pete, why don't you bring us to number 9?
Or number 10A.
Number 10A. You're right. I'm sorry, my bad. Number 10A.
Number 10A is Alan Rossum.
That's his name.
I'm pronouncing that correct. Alan Bonshaka Lamont Rossum. There we go. I'm going to take a page from your book there, John.
There you go.
And D-back and a kick and punt returner with a number of teams. Philadelphia, Green Bay for a few years early in his career. Spent, I guess, the majority of his career with Atlanta, but Also spent some time with Pittsburgh and San Francisco, and 2 stints with San Francisco, I believe, and Dallas as well. So basically, 13-year career and 307 punt returns and 514 kick returns. Total yardage was over 15,046 by this count, or 15,003 by
somebody's not giving him one return.
Yeah, somebody is not counting one of those.
One of them.
3 touchdowns and average punt return of right at an even 10 yards, and average kick return 23.2. So that was pretty good. I don't really know that much about him. I think I had heard his name before we started discussing him, but did not realize. I mean, he's again number 2 on the all-time yards list, but did not make my top 10. Probably more out of ignorance than anything else, which is why a lot of people don't make my top 10 list.
There's been this list in particular has some people where their numbers are just like, wow, relatively unknown, but quite impressive.
Yeah, this was this was a harder list to compile.
Yeah.
Especially because I think, we tend to, I know, Harry, you dig a little bit deeper with some of the older players, some of the guys
I went to high school with.
Guys, but this list actually does contain some guys who played pretty recently as well.
Yeah.
So I think it made it a little bit, maybe a little bit of extra bias because I remember. Yeah. I remember these guys.
Overall, this was probably the youngest list.
Yeah, definitely. That's a much better way of saying what I just took 3 minutes to stumble through. So there we go. Number 10A, Alan Rossum.
There you go.
Awesome Rossum.
Awesome Rossum. There you go. Harry, you bring us to
number 9. Number 9, Darren Sproles, who I think of as a New Orleans Saint, but he actually played more seasons with the Chargers and the Eagles. Obviously won a Super Bowl with the Eagles. Sure. He's probably one of the better known on this list. He was maybe one of the most dominant all-around utility players in the history of the game. He played up until last year. I guess technically a running back, but he had over 11,000 return yards, 9 return touchdowns. You add in another 3,500 rushing yards and another almost 5,000 receiving yards. And he was made for fantasy football. I used to take him all the time in my early fantasy football leagues, and he always delivered. He's just one of those guys. Super fast. He was very elusive, and always seemed to be able to do whatever you asked him to do. He was a great receiver out of the backfield. Not a big guy, but very fast, very elusive, and obviously one of the best kickoff and punt return guys in the history of the game.
Just crazy. And he's tied for 10th most kick and punt return touchdowns.
I think he's going to be a borderline Hall of Famer. I'm not sure he'll make it, but to me, he's a borderline Hall of Famer.
Gotcha. Yeah, that would sound about right. That would sum it about up, right on the cusp there. There you go. Well, number 9, Darren Sproles. I'll take number 8. Number 8 is Mr. Desmond Howard. Desmond Kevin Howard. There you go. He was drafted in the first round, 4th pick overall in 1992 draft by the Redskins. He's also spent time on the Jaguars, on the Packers, obviously, on the Raiders, back to the Packers, and finished up his career with the Lions. He's a champion and was a Super Bowl champion, Super Bowl 31. Made the Pro Bowl one year, but his total return yardage is what we're looking at for this particular list. 10,855 total return yards. Versus his receiving yards was only 1,597. So, there's your specialty right there. His total touchdowns was 17, most of that being on the return side. You're looking at punt return yards was 2,895 with 8 TDs, and his kick return kick returning was 7,959. Just missed 8,000 yards there. No TDs. Kick returning. All of his return TDs were punts. But just really an explosive player when it came down to receiving the kickoff of the punt. Just really all around somebody you didn't want to see lined up when you were punting the ball or kicking it off. There you go. Number 9, Desmond Howard. Pete, you want to bring us to number 8, Desmond Howard.
Number 8.
Pete, you want to bring us to number 7?
Number 7 is my good buddy Prime.
Amazon Prime?
Amazon Prime.
Deion Sanders, who maybe had, I don't know if he had the most nicknames, but some good ones, obviously. Primetime, Neon Dion, and my favorite, Leon Sandcastle.
Your personal favorite?
Yeah, and I will also just his middle name. Do you know what his middle name was, John?
Do I know what Deion Sanders' middle name was? I do not off the top of my head. Sorry.
Humble.
Humble. Humble.
Well, he changed it.
Quiet.
Yes.
Reserved.
That's right.
It was Deion Lewin Sanders.
Deion Lewin Sanders.
One of the best athletes ever to play in the NFL. Obviously played baseball and football at the same time, and one of a kind, certainly. 8 times to the Pro Bowl and 6 times an All-Pro. 2 Super Bowl rings. 1990s Hall of Fame. All 1990s team, and one of the most feared guys. That's just a great athlete and a guy that had success returning kicks as well as as a defensive back. Again, played with Atlanta early in his career. Probably best known for his years with Dallas.
Of course. Retired
for 3 years in the early 2000s, and then came back and played a little bit more with Baltimore. And again, he was a guy that you kicked away from if you were on the other team, and yet he still ended up having an impact, and just one of the great personalities. Love him or hate him, Deion Sanders. You could certainly make a case looking at numbers that maybe he doesn't belong on this list, but I think his impact on the game, and again the fear that you had of kicking to him, and he was a game changer. And for those reasons, I think he does belong on this list.
There you go. Also, he has the dubious honor of being the first person to be on back-to-back lists on our top 10s.
Yes.
He was last week on our defensive backs.
He just tweeted about that.
What's that?
He just tweeted
about it. He did.
So he's paying attention. That's nice.
He's paying attention.
He is.
He's loving that stuff,
Good times.
Still running with the pizza, that he stole from that guy in the commercial. So.
He has the most pizza interceptions in primetime television.
Absolutely.
He'd be making his money.
Yes, he does.
I don't know how much they're paying him, but it's a lot.
This is true. I'm sure they're not giving him. I'm sure they're not just giving him sandwiches to do what he's doing.
They said you can keep any food that you steal.
Anything you pick off, yours to eat.
Right. You got a free pizza for a Subway shop.
Well, there you go. Number 7, Neon Deion Sanders. Harry, bring us to number 6.
Number 6 is Mr. Dante Hall, 2-time Pro Bowler. Played most of his career, most of his career with the Kansas City Chiefs. Finished it out with the St. Louis Rams. Again, a guy doesn't really come up in conversation quite a bit, but he was one of the best return guys of all time. He had over 12,397 total return yards, 12 return touchdowns. So, he was technically a receiver, but he was really a kickoff specialist, even in college. And in a relatively short career, considering, compared to some other guys, he just racked up the yardage. I mean, 8 seasons and over 12,000 yards. It's pretty impressive.
It's very impressive.
Yeah, he did have a short career, but he was, I think certainly in the modern era, other than number 1, he was just electric.
Yeah. Tyreek Hill is another person who's, currently playing that I think is similar in that you just don't want him to ever touch the ball in the open field because you're never going to catch him.
Right.
And Dante Hall was a bit like that. He just he was really good at what he did for
wasn't a question of if he was going to do something great. It was when. It was when. You were just waiting. You'd watch just waiting for that.
Yeah. I mean, I just remember some games where he was the offense for the Chiefs. I mean, he would just rack up, a couple hundred yards a game in return yards. And that's a dangerous weapon, especially it can turn the game around and give you a field position that you wouldn't normally have. He was really, really good at what he did.
Well, there you go. Number 6, Dante Hall. I'll take number 5. Number 5 is Mr. Mel Gray. Melvin Junius Gray. Drafted in the second round of the 1984 draft by the supplemental draft, actually, by the Los Angeles Express. He was a member of the Los Angeles Express, which, of course, was the USFL team from L.A. He played a couple seasons there and then went to the Saints for a few years. He was on the Lions, probably best known for his 6 years with the Lions. Played for the Oilers, which became, obviously, the Titans. But when he played for them, they were the Houston Oilers and the Tennessee Oilers. They were in Tennessee, but they hadn't changed the name yet, and finished up his career with the Eagles. But he had his punt return yardage was 2,753, and his kick return yardage was 10,250. 10,250 kickoff return yardage. It's good enough for fourth all time. And he had 6 TDs returning kickoffs and 3 TDs returning punts. Pretty good guy, bouncing all over the field, especially when he was on the Lions. Because during the time he was on the Lions, the Lions also had another running back who was pretty stellar running around the field as well. So they were fun to watch. Not just Sanders.
And those old uniforms are great.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, and Gray was good because you're right. It was, you knew his name.
Yeah.
On a team that was basically Barry Sanders and Eric Hipple, who was the quarterback.
Yeah, Hipple. Yeah.
It was Barry Sanders and pretty much. They had. Yeah, I don't know who else did they have, but you knew Mel Gray's name, so he was pretty special.
You were, That one was. You were aware of that name. That wasn't. That didn't get by you. But yeah, that's just definitely belongs on this list. So there you go. Number 5, Mel Gray. Pete, bring us to number 4.
All right, number 4. Guy who didn't play very long, but has made our list a couple times, and it's just a level of greatness that you cannot deny, and that is, of course, Gale Sayers, the Kansas Comet, who again had a relatively short career, but came back from a devastating injury to basically return to form, and I think he won a rushing title the year after he came back. So, but not as well known as the kick and punt returner, but 9,435 yards,
a lot of touchdowns,
and a lot of touchdowons. Let me sort out these stats here. 2 punt return touchdowns, 6 kick return touchdowns, 2,781 yards in 91 kick returns. An average of 30.6, which is freaking unheard of. I think that's either number 1 or 2 all time. Just again, this is one of the all-time great players who unfortunately had a short career. But despite that, I mean, still, pretty close to 10,000 yards altogether in only 6 years of service. So Gale Sayers, just excellent returner. Great running back, great all-around player, and again, unfortunately, a shorter career than many, but still had an impact on the game, and deservedly so on this list.
Yeah.
Number 4, Gale Sayers. Harry, bring us to number 3.
Number 3 is Brian Mitchell, who I think was number 1 on my list.
He was.
This guy was spent his entire career in the NFC East, played for the Redskins, the Eagles, and then finished out his career with the Giants. He he's second all time in all-purpose yards with 23,330 yards, only behind only Jerry Rice. So that's pretty good company. He had 14,000 kick return yards and another 4,999 punt return yards. He holds, these are the records that he holds. Combined kickoff and punt return yards, 19,013. Combined kickoff and punt returns. He had over 1,000 kickoff and punt returns, 1,070. Kickoff return yards. He had more kickoff return yards than almost anybody on this list for kickoff and punts combined, with 14,000. He had over 607 kickoff returns. He had 5,000 punt return yards. And he was one of those guys during that era, which you just didn't. He could change the game on special teams. Yeah. I would argue he's got to be maybe the best special teams player of all time. And that'd be my pick. Brian Mitchell. I mean, he's fantastic, and he was one-time Pro Bowler. He won a Super Bowl with the Redskins. And he didn't play all that long, but he played enough. I guess what
14 seasons isn't
14 seasons. Yeah, so a little longer than what I thought. He didn't play much with the Giants though in 2000.
Right at the tail end.
That's right. But I mean, the numbers are staggering.
Yeah, he was awesome to watch. He definitely was, and most of the time because he was playing with the teams he was playing with Washington and Philly. I wasn't too happy about Washington.
Yeah, he could always turn the game around and you'd be throwing something at the television.
Usually did, as long as it didn't bounce off the TV and hit you if we were watching together.
Right.
And he also probably, the touchback was not such a thing. Mm-mm. Back in his day, so he was returning those kicks. I mean, you mentioned more than 1,000.
Oh yeah, this list isn't going to change much because of the fact that there's not many.
No, but I mean, to play for 14, that's a position where you take a pounding.
Yeah,
you're running full speed one way, and someone who's tackling you is running full speed the other way, and many times you have 10, 15, 20 yards to gather speed, and that's
exactly.
Could be a hell of a
he wasn't the prototypical returner. I mean, a lot of returners nowadays, you think of receivers and safeties and guys who are a little bit fleeter and smaller, and he was a running back. I mean, he was a running back, and but he was. I thought he was the best of all time at this, but I was wrong.
In your mind, he's the best of all time.
In my mind.
In your mind. There you go. That'll be number 3, Mr. Brian Mitchell. I'll take us to number 2. Number 2 is Mr. Joshua Cribbs. No middle name.
Good for him.
None listed either. Maybe just didn't like it. Maybe his middle name was Dungaree. So, but that's another story. He was drafted. He went undrafted, I should say, in 2005, and he was picked up as an undrafted free agent by the Cleveland Browns and played pretty much the entirety of his career with the Browns. Finished up with the Jets and the Colts a year each in 2013, 2014, but made the Pro Bowl 3 times. First team All-Pro 1 year and second team All-Pro another year. Remember the 2000s All-Decade team. But his return yards were amazing. He was a return special, that's for sure. His receiving yards, as a wide receiver, was modest at best, 1,175 yards. But he has 13,448 return yards. 13,448 return yards. It's just amazing that he the yardage he had, and of course most of that was with Cleveland. He just like I said, the tail end of his career was at the Jets and the Colts a year each. But you remember with the Jets there, RadioPete?
Oh yeah, those are some good years.
There you go. There you go.
He didn't quite have it. He didn't quite have his act together back then.
No. He left it mostly on the field in Cleveland, but he did have 8 career kick return touchdowns and 3 punt return touchdowns. So he had 11 touchdowns with them. But yeah, his 13,448 yards, return yards, it's good enough to make him third in return yards of all time. So there you go.
Not bad.
Number 2, Josh Cribbs. Pete, bring us to number 1. Let us know who number 1 is.
Number 1.
Not so much for Harry, but for this list.
Yeah. Well, listen, it's certainly a lot of arguments to put this guy number 1, and his middle name is amongst them. It's Devin DeVoris Hester, also known as Anytime, and the Windy City Flyer, which I had never heard before.
The Windy City Flyer. I've never heard that myself.
Yeah, Hester just, great years with Chicago and a couple of years with Atlanta and Baltimore. I think he played his final year that he was in service. Was technically, I think, with Seattle, but didn't actually get on the field for them. This guy was just electric. Punts and kickoffs, more so on punts, but we'll get to that first. So we'll do kicks first here. 295 returns, 7,333 yards, and 5 touchdowns. Averaged 24.9 yards per kickoff return. Punt returns, not as many yards, but 315 of them for 3,695 yards, 14 touchdowns. So a total of 19 kick return touchdowns. And again, he's number 11 in kickoff yards with the 733.3 and number 3 in kickoff.
In punt yards.
In punt yards, rather. So, put those numbers together, and I'll let you do the math because I'm not good at it. But
11,000 and change.
A lot.
11,000 and change, yeah. 4 times to the Pro Bowl and 3 times in All-Pro. Hall of Fame, all 2000s and all 2010s. This guy was just electric. He was a game changer. You did not want to kick to him. You knew he was going to do something. He was like a more productive, I don't want to just say better, but a more productive and version of kind of Dante Hall.
Yeah.
You could say you never knew it was going to happen, but you kind of did know what was going to happen.
Yeah, you did.
It was just a matter of when, not if, and just an electric player. And yeah, I certainly, again, if you strictly go by numbers, you might put him a little bit farther down on the list, but I don't think there was anyone more dangerous returning the ball, whether it was a punt or specifically a punt or a kick, than Devin Hester. And I think what he did returning punts, which to me was the more difficult of those 2 jobs.
Yeah.
Really, so just he's in a class by himself, kind of in that category. So I don't think there was ever, like I said, nobody more dangerous returning a kicked ball in NFL history, really, than Devin Hester, in my humble opinion.
I kind of feel the same way. Yeah. That kickoff return touchdown in the Super Bowl was pretty damn good too. Silence.
He was good.
Yeah.
Maybe 2 or 3.
And listen, he played, 10, 11 years, I guess. So
yeah, he was electric.
Look, these lists are subjective. I think we can all agree that the top 3 on this list are the top 3. Just a matter of which order.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the first time we haven't had a consensus number 1 in a long time.
Yeah. We've always number 1 and usually number 2 are consensus, but it's the first time we haven't.
Well, and listen, it's no slight against, anybody, those top 3 guys, or even 4 or 5 or anybody else.
Sure.
These are all great players on this list.
Yeah, and 2 more years from now, we might have, there might be some other guys. I mean, what's interesting about the guys in this list is that a lot of them, they did it. It wasn't like it was the top receiver who also did kickoff returns, or, with the exception of maybe Deion Sanders, who's, I think, stopped doing returns a little bit later in his career. Most of these guys were, and Gale Sayers, I guess, but most of these guys were dedicated kickoff return specialists.
Right.
Once in a blue moon, they get in, line up in the slot, or
I mean, Mitchell and Sproles and played a bit more than some of the others as far as a third down back or a utility back. And Devin Hester was certainly in the game too at times. But I think that's what's great about this list is that they dedicated themselves to it, and the numbers prove it.
Yeah, exactly. Agreed.
Yeah, I think Devin Hester had maybe 60 catches or something.
Yeah.
And I remember it being a controversy at the time.
Yeah.
He wanted to be more of a receiver. He said, I'm a receiver. And half the crowd said, well, listen, he's a great kick returner. Let him return. Maybe not half, but let him catch some passes. And a lot of other people went, no, you'll ruin him. Let him just do what he does. And I believe his numbers did go down after he became more of a receiver, but not by a whole lot.
No. And now he gets to have the dubious honor of being number one
on our list.
He's definitely making a plaque and putting it up on his trophy wall.
Well, listen, I know I'm probably going to get a call from Prime. He's going to be pretty upset.
Prime's probably going to be upset.
Yeah, but he's upset anytime he's not number one.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. Number one kickoff and punt returner of all time on our list, Devin Hester. That brings us to our next segment, which we always follow up our top 10 list with, of old balls.
Old balls.
Harry, who's our old balls this week?
Obviously thinking about kickoff and punt returners, I could pick no one other than Mr. Leon Bright. Leon Bright is an incredibly obscure name that most people that are not New York Giants fans, for whom he played most of his NFL career with, would even know. He started in the Canadian Football League. And what Leon Bright was really most known for is that this guy hated to fair catch. He was a punt returner, and he never raised his hand for a fair catch. And number one, fair catches were illegal in Canadian football. So he started his first couple of years never having fair catch. It got to the point where it was kind of like watching WWF wrestling, because only this was real. This guy took so many hits where illegal penalties, you would think that for a while there, you just thought he was indestructible until one game, which I believe was on Thanksgiving in 82 or something like that, where he got laid out, and I remember him laying on the ground there motionless. And you were like, oh God, this is it. He's done. Instead, it was a neck sprain. He was definitely hurt. There's actually articles in the New York Times about this at the time, because, it was like, oh God, the streak was finally broken. Will he now, fair catch? And he did say after that game that I'm going to think about it.
He's going to consider it.
He's going to consider it. And I do remember him. I think he came back the next year, and he did. I remember seeing his first fair catch. He didn't play too long after that, but he was sort of a little bit of a folk hero, I think, as a kick returner. I mean, I think he wasn't necessarily amazing at what he did. He was good. He definitely turned into more of a specialist that way. He wasn't really built. He was kind of a stocky running back, but he just in a time when the fair catch was ubiquitous and everybody was doing it, he just refused to. And when I say this guy took hits that I don't think any other human being could survive. It was ridiculous.
It was ridiculous
and impressive.
And they were hits that would be called illegal today.
Yeah,
that have since been outlawed.
Oh, yeah.
We've learned how dangerous and how much damage they can do to people.
Yeah, and being a teenager and seeing this guy just on principle, he's just incredibly memorable. And I don't think it gets any more old school than saying, "I'm not going to fair catch. I'm just not going to do it.
I'm just not going to do it." Well, there you go. That's this week's Old Balls.
Old balls.
Leon Bright.
At first, not so bright, but then he got brighter bright.
He got brighter bright. He was light bright. So there you go. All right. Well, that should wrap up football for today.
I guess. I don't know. Don't we want to talk about the Canadian League?
I think they just played the Super Bowl.
They just played the Super Bowl.
We swore we'd bring it in under 2 hours, and we did. Well, we had 25 minutes of video game
talks,
sex doll talk, and what did we start off talking about? I forget.
Off the air, I don't know.
Off the air, really.
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't really matter now. Let's do some. Let's do a little bit of hot stuff. There's a couple things to talk about. The Padres made a couple of moves, depleting their farm system to get a couple of guys.
I guess they figured out that you can't do it with hitting alone, so they went, "Let's go get you, Darvish
and Blake Snell."
Yeah,
they gave four prospects to get Blake Snell. I don't know what they gave up for Darvish.
I don't know for Darvish.
What's that?
Not much for Darvish, but
no. But
listen, I'm happy for them. I like the Padres. They were fun to watch last year. They've still got their big four hitters, I think, and they've greatly improved their starting rotation.
Clearly,
you gotta, listen, it'd be nice to have somebody out in California challenging the Dodgers for something.
Well, I think, I'm not so sure about Darvish. But he's had a couple decent years here. Whether or not he has any left in him, who knows? But
yeah, but he doesn't have to be Cy Young contender on
now, and that's what I was going to say. Is now he's number 2 in the rotation.
Sure.
Or 3 even, and that Snell's a great pickup. And baseball's about pitching, and it's not the long game anymore. It's you win now. Who knows how long Tatis is going to want to stick around there?
And they're not going to.
I give him credit. I give him credit. Sitting here as a relatively small market team with the Rockies, I see the same thing all the time. It's we always have these great offensive players. But they just never can seem to get pitchers to stick around here or sign big name acquisitions. And so I think this moves the Padres up the list in the NL pretty high.
Yeah. And they're not going to have Clevenger until next season. He's going to be out this entire upcoming season. So, it's assuming he will come back and pitch well, at least at some high percentage of where he was at before he got hurt. So, that was a move that did not work out for them, or worked out for 3 weeks for them, or whatever it was. Yeah. But that's going to set them up for maybe an even better rotation, or an equally good. They could lose one of those guys, assuming Clevenger comes back and pitches well. So they're kind of set up for decent pitching in the future as well.
Darvish had a really good season, albeit it was a really he only pitched 12 times. So, but his ERA was the best I think it's ever been. So,
there's always been potential there. He is really greatness, but
he is 34. He's older than I think people think he is. But
but you know what? Like I said, if you get a good year out of him, and then Clevenger comes back, that's still a powerful rotation.
Yeah, Padres are going to be a fun team to watch.
Yeah, they are. They're going to be fun again. And if you've got enough pitching to make you relevant and keep you in, then you can keep some of those big hitters around too.
Right.
There you go.
And it's freaking San Diego, man.
Exactly.
Yeah, who doesn't want to play in that horrible weather out there?
Yeah,
it's disgusting. It's just horrible. Steve Cohen made a $500,000 donation to the River Fund of New York.
The River Dance.
The River Dance. Yes, the River Fund. You get
to find a starting pitcher in the river.
River Dance.
So he's getting involved in the community, and that's what was wanted, and that's what he's doing. So
he's throwing his money around. It's not like he's out. It's not like he's out on the West Side Highway picking up trash.
No, not at all.
But that money's going to help somebody get out of the West Side Highway to pick up that trash.
He's scrubbing graffiti off the side of buildings on the Cross Bronx Expressway. Yeah. He's a real mensch.
He's
cleaning up all those scrap yards.
Doing what De Blasio wanted him to do, right? He wanted to invest in the community, and that's what he wanted. So he's living up to that request, basically. So
yes,
but
Steve Cohen's going to be great until he does something wrong, and then some of the New York faithful will turn on him.
What can go wrong being
because
New York Mets?
York,
Come on,
it's New York, and that's. If he doesn't get Trevor Bauer, he will lose a lot of stats.
Well, it's going to be measured by whether he gets Bauer and whether it's Bauer and Springer, right?
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, the odds of any team getting Bauer and Springer. I mean, if he can pull that off, then
The in the MLB rumor mill right now, the Mets and Springer are still far apart. So obviously they're working on it, but apparently Bauer is seeking upwards of $40 million a year. So is Trevor Bauer worth it for the Mets to sign him for $40 million a year when the best pitcher in baseball? How many years? When the best, I don't, it doesn't even say. But when the best pitcher in baseball is making half of that on their roster,
Yeah. Well, but and probably everybody wants 5, right?
Yeah.
So it's going to be a minimum of 4. No one's going to sign a 3-year contract anymore.
$160, $200 million for 5 years.
Well, look, trades are being made, right? We were talking about this last week or a couple of weeks ago. Trades are being made, but the free agent market hasn't exactly lit up. And I think, the uncertainty about the upcoming season is going to sort of keep that, I think Bauer's less likely to get that kind of money from anybody, quite frankly.
He's looking for a 5 to 6 year deal.
Yeah.
He's looking for $200 to $240 million for 5 or 6 years. So,
and I don't think he's going to get it.
I don't think he's going to get that. Well, he's got to start higher, right?
From anybody.
I don't think he's going to get it from anybody.
No.
He's probably the best shot at getting it from the Mets, but he's not going to get it.
The expectations. I mean, he hasn't had the kind of career where, he's had 6 stellar seasons and he's performed in the postseason. And
it's been 2, the last 2.
He's I would say 1.5.
Yeah.
And right. It's also probably not the best time to be asking for $40 million a year as a baseball player, knowing that you might not have people in the stands again this year.
Right.
So
very likely won't.
Very likely
won't, or at least maybe the later part of the season.
Yeah. Well, to start, yeah. But
the other thing is you have to kind of sometimes you got to have to take that leap of faith, right? That maybe this guy's shown enough, not for 40, but he might get 30. He might get around 30 a year for 5 years.
To John's point too is that you will eventually have to deal with an expiring contract on your best pitcher,
right?
And can you afford both of them? And probably maybe not at over $400 million in pitcher salary.
Price yourself out of extending DeGrom because of Bauer.
Right? But if Bauer,
like I said,
Bauer comes in.
I'll send the limo to go take him right to the Bronx. I mean,
but if Bauer comes in and you win a couple of championships, then it continues to be
let me ask you this: do you want Bauer? As far as the Mets go right now, if you had to pick one between Springer and Bauer, money aside, you know what they're both going to want. Yeah. And so if you could take that $40 million that you're going to spend on Bauer and get 2 or 3 pitchers that are 12-game winners, 13-game winners in a normal season,
right?
Then I think that's enough. The Mets they drop off so much from their starting pitch, from their top pitcher with DeGrom. They just drop off dramatically. And the other thing is that for whatever reason, they do not hit for DeGrom. And George Springer is one of the best. Especially in the postseason, he's one of the best guys at creating offense. He's just good at it. And he's a pretty good defensive player, too. So I agree. I would rather have Springer than Bauer.
And Springer's looking for a deal worth north of $150 million.
Yeah,
doesn't say how many years.
Right.
I can only imagine.
2.
It's 1 year. 1 year, $150 million.
$151 million, 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, throw in one. If Altuve can fit in his luggage, then that's good.
If you only had
bringing him with
money,
him, it's a 2-for-1 deal. So
if you only had enough money for one, then obviously you go for Springer.
But Altuve, it's a 1.5 for one.
Look, if you're going to spend that money and bring them both in, and again, if you're going to win, then maybe it's time to say goodbye to Jacob DeGrom when this contract ends.
Yeah.
Well, I think DeGrom has 2 more years left on his contract, doesn't he?
3, right?
3, yeah.
I mean,
how long can he be?
Nobody plans for 5 years anymore.
Right.
It's win now, and if you got DeGrom and Bauer going 1 and 2,
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty. I mean, and the Mets learned to at least hit for one of them.
Right.
Well, that's what I mean. If you can get,
you got Syndergaard coming back, you got Stroman still. He's there.
DeGrom, Bauer, and Syndergaard. If Syndergaard comes back healthy, that might be the top 3 rotation in baseball.
That should put you in the conversation. And and you're right. It's not necessarily about winning in year 5. It's
winning now.
Right. I always look at the Yankees and A-Rod.
Right.
They brought in A-Rod. They weren't expecting him to be great for, however many years. Or what's his name? Stanton.
Right.
How many years is left on his contract?
No, they can't expire soon enough.
Yeah. But, they weren't expecting to win championships with A-Rod in the 8th year of his contract or whatever it was. It was the first couple of years, and we got to get these championships. And that makes all that money that you pay them when they're, fading in talent worth it, because you've gotten the.
I mean, A-Rod really didn't fade. He had 1 year. I mean,
right.
The thing on A-Rod is he wouldn't perform in New York in the postseason. But even in this last year, he was horrible. But he did better in the postseason, the shittier of a regular season he had.
Yeah.
But it was definitely worth it. Look, it's play money for these guys. It's play money. Who cares how much you pay them? If you can get both of them, get both of them. It's the New York Mets. This guy would become a legend, much like what's his name did for both the Red Sox and the Cubs. If he can pull off these signings and make the Mets instantaneous contenders.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what's going to happen. But I mean, that's where they're heading. And I mean, they need a few other pieces here and there, bullpen. And they restarted. They got Trevor May in there, but we'll see what happens with them. No movement on your Yankees. And
here's the thing. Supposedly it's like all of these signings. It's going to come down to when the clock starts ticking, and
no one's in a hurry. It doesn't seem like anyone's in a hurry to get signed because they're worried about losing their money if they wait an extra month.
Right. And what disappoints me about Cashman and the Yankees is that you hear no rumors about the Yankees trying to sign a top starter. The Yankees, their lineup is great. I think they have 3 guys who are incredibly overrated, incredibly overpaid, and do not necessarily hit in the clutch in Stanton and Sanchez. I wish they had room to sort of maneuver around them, but they don't right now. They seem committed to Sanchez, as horrible as he is. The Yankees need to get pitching. Garrett Cole is not going to be in his prime for 6 more years.
Right.
They have to get a number 2. I think they have to get a closer, to be quite honest with you. I think if they could get rid of Chapman, it would be really smart. And their so-called great bullpen is not that great. So pitching. And when you think more pitch, you don't have enough, get more pitching. And if they can move some of these other guys who they have a pretty deep bench with some trade value there. I think they need to start thinking about maybe moving some of these guys. I think they need pitching.
Yeah. And the only thing I'd say about Sanchez and Stanton is there's great potential there. These aren't mediocre players who've fallen off the shelf of mediocrity and they suck. These are guys that can do a lot of damage potentially. At times in their career. So maybe it's worth keeping them around. But you're right. If you don't have the pitching.
Well, think about the money that they spent on Stanton. And I wouldn't. Stanton had a better year last year than he did the year before. He hasn't performed. And I would argue that
played.
Yeah, and I would argue that Sanchez had moments of playing good baseball, but has proven to be a fairly mediocre player. And last year and the year before was pretty garbage. I mean, he is one of the worst defensive catchers in all of baseball, and his batting average is atrocious. Now, granted, average isn't everything, and to Sanchez's credit, he does occasionally find ways of having big hits and big moments, and I'll give him that. And I want him to succeed. I just think that this experiment with Gary Sanchez is not working. When your best pitchers don't want him behind the plate when they're pitching, that says something.
Well, if he was a better defensive catcher,
Yeah.
How much leeway would you give him offensively?
Well, that's like saying, if I was, good looking and a leading man,
Well, no, but not an all-star, but better. If he wasn't atrocious behind the plate,
yeah.
Then you say, well, listen, he hits a lot better. Here's better than a lot of other catchers.
Here's my point. 2 years ago, or even a year ago, I think the Yankees could have moved him and gotten some better players for him. I think that there's a little bit of a stubbornness with the Yankees organization to hold on to Gary Sanchez, and maybe they have shopped him, and maybe there's not people that aren't that interested. The scouts are still pretty high on him. There's something about this guy that makes people want to stick with him, but I just don't see it. I've never seen it, and I just don't see it. And he's got big shoes to fill. The Yankees have had some great catchers over the years. But I think he's the second or maybe third best catcher on the Yankees roster right now. And that's saying a lot for somebody that they've committed that much to.
Yeah. And well, I guess, if you've got a guy who is a much better defensive catcher and it's kind of a hole on offense, or at least an unknown on offense, I guess you'd rather have that in there.
Right.
As your more or less everyday starter.
And look, if he was lighting it up at the plate and he just couldn't figure it out as catcher, then I would say, okay, DH him, catch him half the time.
Right.
Maybe even try to maybe, but they have two guys that are better at first base. Where else is he going to go?
Right.
Yeah.
My point being again is that they could have gotten something much better for him, and I just feel like there's going to be 2 or 3 more years of this, and it's going to be the same story.
Well, I personally think that the method to their madness is they want his bat to bounce back, right? And then if they have a way to keep him around as a DH and throw him in once in a while in a non.
But he hit 136 or something like that.
Right.
I mean, with that lineup, it's hard to get in.
The only thing they can do right now with the way he hit last year and the way he played last year is let him go. Right. So they want to get something for him. Keep him. Hopefully his bat bounces back, and then use him at the trade deadline. Somebody needs another bat. An American League team needs a DH and a bat to get over the hump. Boom, they can get something for him. Right. That's what I think they're doing.
Right. Yeah. If things continue the way they are, he's going to be no more than a throw-in in any trade.
Well, hopefully he woke up in the offseason and he realized that, hey, I need to do something different. Right. And
maybe.
Who knows?
We will see.
I have seen nothing from the Yankees that makes me think that they're going to be any better than they were last year. And the Yankees are a good team. They're not going to beat Tampa Bay. They're going to slide a little backwards because of their pitching. And why go out and get Cole if you're not going to back them up with a couple other starters that can? It seems like they've given up on some of the other guys who they're going to let go. So they need to fill some roster spots.
It's kind of like they don't have an identity.
No.
Like, what are you going to be? Are you going to rely on the home run? I guess they're going to rely on the home runs because they're always going to have fans in the seats, though. They don't have to worry about their fan base. But they don't. Are you going to go with pitching and go with pitching wins championships and you get enough hitting to complement that? Right. Or are you going to be a bunch of bashers and you have one ace and maybe you have a good closer and
name one team that hits as well and where they have horrible pitching or mediocre pitching at best and great hitting and they've won a championship. It doesn't happen. You have to have the pitching. You have to have the pitching and timely hitting.
But they don't seem to be willing to commit to that identity.
No, because they've spent all their money on guys that just aren't contributing to the cause.
Right. Jeter, that traitor.
Yeah. Well, when it comes down to it, right?
Best deal he ever made was getting
rid of Stan. That's for sure. That's
the only deal he ever made.
Yeah, really. On another note, sad day the other day. Phil Niekro. Lost
the knuckleballer.
The knuckleballer. 81 years old.
Phil and Joe Niekro.
Yeah.
Those guys did anything and everything that they possibly could to make that ball do weird things.
And they pitched into their 60s, didn't they?
Well, yeah, they were also sponsored by Vaseline.
There you go.
I remember there was a game where I could be making this up, it's maybe selective memory, but I think there was a game where the camera caught him with a nail file on the mound, scraping the ball down. It's just.
It was found his nails, not the ball.
Yeah. It seemed like when they in the middle of their career, they were already 50 years old. I don't ever
always seemed like they were older than they were.
Like, oh yeah, the Negro boys.
But they pitched forever.
Pitching in the World Series at age like 49 or something.
Yeah, they were older. Yeah,
listen, imagine what they could have done with nail technology today, right?
Yeah,
they could have had like little metal.
All the cameras now would have caught everything.
No, but I mean, it could have just made it look like a fingernail. It could have just been gripping the ball and script. It wouldn't have needed a nail file or any.
No, he just loaded it up with. I mean, he'd take his hat off and he'd have like tube of Brill cream in there or something. It just the ball would hit the catcher's mitt and splatter.
No, it's still fun to watch him pitch.
Oh, he was great.
I
mean, other than Wakefield, maybe not a better knuckleballer in the history of the game.
No, he was a great knuckleballer.
Yeah,
but the other day, 81 years old. But God bless him.
That's pretty good life.
There you go.
Baseball player.
All right.
Quickly into the NBA.
Little NBA action. Harry,
Knicks and the Nets have the same record. Harry,
what do you think of the Knicks? What do you think of the Knicks there?
Well, I'll tell you what I think of the Knicks. I think the players that I liked in the preseason and the end of last year are performing well. Julius Randle's come out.
He's been a beast the last couple of days.
Yeah, and the Knicks are better when Elfrid Payton's in the game. And they've had this starting lineup of Payton and Randle and Mitchell and R.J. Barrett and Reggie Bullock? Bullock,
yeah.
They look okay. I mean, they're ready to have an all-star step in and play with them. But, Randle's their best player, and Elfrid Payton has had, when he goes well, the Knicks look pretty well. Now they beat an undefeated Cleveland Cavaliers team without Kevin Love. Yeah. And they beat the Bucks by 20.
They beat the Bucks by 20, 130 to 110, and I said that the Bucks were, going to be.
The Bucks are having a little bit of chemistry problems right now.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, they haven't looked fantastic. In fact, they're losing to the Heat right now, 119-108. Or they lost. So the Bucks are 2-2, or 2-3 now.
2-3, yeah.
Yeah. So
they lost the Heat last night too, right? Or 2 nights ago.
Yeah.
I think they had back-to-back with games with the Heat.
Miami looks pretty good. Although they're only 2-2. I mean, it's too early to tell.
We're a week into the season. So,
yeah. But the Nets and the Hawks tonight had an old ABA throwback game, 145 to 141.
Oh Jesus!
Atlanta's 3-1.
Yeah.
They were undefeated before tonight.
Yeah, Trey Young's having he's having a look. I think it's going to be an interesting NBA season. I think some of these teams that people have maybe counted out in the last few years are going to be a little better. And then it's too early for the Knicks, but they do seem to have a little bit of a different energy out there right now. They have they're more disciplined.
They are. Yeah.
And their defense is better.
And Quickly and Toppin have been out. So I mean the fact that they're playing. I mean, granted they're rookies, but the fact that they're playing what they're playing like, and
they're going with a 7 and 8 man rotation right now.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not really playing a lot of guys. Kevin Knox is, again, I just think he's kind of a bust. He's a good bench guy.
He's a bench guy. Yeah.
Let's see R.J. Barrett's now kind of the third option on this Knicks team, so we'll see what happens.
Well, Randall had a triple-double last night over the Cavs. So.
And I mean, he's done that before. Even when he was on the Lakers and before the Lakers pre-LeBron, he was kind of one of their go-to guys that showed signs. Maybe Thibodeau's given them a little bit of discipline that's helping. They seem to be turning the ball over a lot less, and they seem to be able to close out some games. Yeah. So we'll see.
And maybe they're not caught up in the whole Knicks mystique. They're young and they realize we got a lot of work to do, and this is our chance for us to kind of rebuild the Knicks. So.
There is no Knicks mystique for these guys. They're too young.
Yeah, that's what I mean. They're young, and so they're like, well, now this is our team. Right. Yeah. We're gonna create a persona, and
they're all trying to have a good year so they can be picked up by the Lakers.
Well, that's a possibility too. But listen, if you get a good year out of them, then. Yeah. Then it's worth it, I guess.
The Knicks are first right now in 3-point percentage.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's been
45.9.
Harden and the Rockets. Look, I mean that whole drama is getting weirder and weirder. The Nuggets were off to a tough start. They lost a tough one to Sacramento, came back, beat Houston, and I think they're missing Jerami Grant, and it's the Brooklyn looks good.
What do you think about them? What do you think about Nash sitting KD and Kyrie both together at the same time on the same game?
I mean, are we really load management on the third game of the season?
Yeah.
No, I don't know if that was more just to get an idea of what it's going to look like when one of them gets hurt and misses a couple of weeks.
I mean, the Nets.
You can't play the other guy every minute of every game. So
who else have the Nets lost to? They've lost 2 games. I can't remember who else they lost to.
Who was it? Was it Memphis and?
Yeah, Memphis doesn't look bad right now. Yeah. They lost to Charlotte.
Charlotte. No.
Yeah, listen, they're gonna, like I said, they looked great the first couple of games, but they're gonna have their own set of growing pains. With a new coach, first time coach, and it's not always going to be cake and strawberries.
Spencer Dinwiddie's out
with Kyrie Irving.
Spencer Dinwiddie's out too. He's got a partial.
And Dinwiddie's out for the
season. I think that's going to be a big loss for them. Although LeVert, you talk about them not playing Kyrie and Durant. LeVert had 28 points and 11 assists last night. So
he would be a number one on a lot of teams, number one option, or at least a number 2 option on a lot of other teams in the NBA. And it's, I think, you can talk about KD and Kyrie, but the greatest strength of the Nets is probably their depth. And that definitely took a hit with Dinwiddie going out. But
with Dinwiddie out now, that opens the door for them to get Harden, right?
No, they'll have to. Well, all that depth is gone though.
It looks like Harden's thinking about Portland, and there have been some rumors about Harden coming to the Nuggets. I mean, Nuggets would have to give up probably Michael Porter Jr. and Gary Harris.
Would you make that trade?
I'm split on this because I'm not naive enough to think the Nuggets have enough to win a championship with the talent that they have.
Right.
Having said that, I could totally picture Harden playing with God, why am I drawing a blank on his name? The Nuggets center. Jokic. I could totally picture Jokic and Harden playing together. I'm not sure how Murray and Harden would work together, but the answer is yes. If it was Michael Porter Jr. and Gary Harris, and that's it for James Harden for 2 years or something along those lines, and he's actually committed to coming here, then I would say yes, because I think that makes a really, really interesting. I mean, I don't think the Nuggets are going to win a championship with the roster that they have right now. In fact, right. I think they took a step back by losing Jerami Grant. Why not? Why not?
Why not?
It'd be fun. Who else wants to come to the Nuggets?
As long as Jokic is going to be satisfied with being the number 2.
Jokic
would be fine.
Jokic, you have to yell at him to shoot sometimes. That guy would be so happy to have. Imagine if all of a sudden he turns around at the high post and he's got Jamal Murray or James Harden to pass it to. Jokic might have 23 assists a game.
I just saw he had like his 44th triple double or something.
Yeah. He's a machine.
Yeah.
The issue is Harden willing to put aside some of his personal stats to actually play when the game's on the line come playoff time? Is he willing to just move the ball and pass look, James Harden, when he was on Oklahoma City, was a guy who came in and could play with Durant and Westbrook. There's something going on with Harden where it doesn't seem quite right. He's an amazing player with stats that are just off the charts, but it just seems like he's not the right fit anywhere. It just seems like he might not be the best chemistry addition to any team. And but we'll see. I mean, he's not going to stay in Houston. I mean,
I'd say that's definitely the case.
No, he's not staying in Houston. No.
I still think he goes to Philly, but.
Yeah, you think he's going to Philly? You think?
I think so. I think he wants to get back with Morey, who loves him,
right.
And team up with what's his name?
Oh, him.
Darryl Dawkins.
No, Embiid.
Oh,
yeah,
sure.
Yeah, but the for that, I think the Sixers would probably have to give up Simmons, which I'm okay with. Look,
I think they will. I think they'd be fine with that.
If you listen to all the national pundits, you watch First Take or anything, people are so hot. If all he has to do is gain a shot. Well, that's like saying, you're a pitcher in Major League Baseball. All he has to do is find his way over the plate every once in a while.
Well, all he needs is a fastball.
He's a great defensive guy. Yeah.
But look, he doesn't get along with Embiid anyway.
No.
So if you're going to have two guys that don't necessarily get along, would you rather have James Harden?
Yeah.
If you're trying to, or Simmons, if you're trying to win a championship,
I think if you're the Sixers, if you're Miami, if you're Portland, if you're San Antonio, if you're any of these teams, other than the Lakers, the Nets, I don't even know who else. I think you say yes, because you don't know, because it's a crapshoot. James Harden has never really been able to will a team to an NBA championship or even an NBA Finals. Yeah. But he's got to be the top free agent out there, and he immediately makes your team better on paper. Whether or not you're actually a better team or not, I don't know.
Sure. Well, I mean, that's that. I like your idea. I like the idea of the Nuggets for him.
I do too.
You would think eventually he would want to win and would come to the realization that maybe I have to do things a little bit differently, but not that much differently. I'm still going to be the number one guy, right, and I can get a ring or two out of it.
Here's the thing with Harden that concerns me a little bit, is that he was a D'Antoni guy, which means that D'Antoni was sort of like, let him do whatever the hell he wants. Defense, that's so American defense. We don't want defense.
We all know how much you love Mike D'Antoni.
Yeah, well, he's horrible. But what bothers me about Harden is that he just looks like he turns sour on a team that committed itself, their entire organization to him. And he also looks out of shape. He just looks out of shape. Maybe it's just the new haircut or something. I don't know. But he looks like a different player. Now, he had a horrible game the other night against the Nuggets and scored 34 points. He's one of those guys that can put up 35, 40 points like nothing.
But he can also come up short at his time in the playoffs.
And his turnover ratio is hard, and the ball seems to stop moving when it's in his hands. Now, having said that, I've seen moments where he is absolutely brilliant, especially in the open court, and he can be a playmaker like no other. What I like about him on the Nuggets, even though the Nuggets, is that he can sort of act as that point guard who can shoot. I think it would free Murray up a little bit. The Nuggets really don't have a point guard. Murray's kind of their point guard right now. I just think that if he could say, okay, here's what I know the Nuggets have. Here's where I fit in, and I'm gonna lower my points per game by 8 or 9 points to win a championship. Then yeah. But if he's not interested in that, and he's not willing to play defense and not willing to buy into Mike Malone's strategy, then no, I don't think so. And you have to be careful with what you have to give up for him, because right now the Nuggets have a good second team, and Porter's starting finally on this team. What do you have to give up? Gary Harris, I'm not too concerned about, although Gary Harris is a really good defensive backcourt guy, and he seems to pair up pretty well with Murray. Porter would be a little bit of a bigger loss only because of the potential he might have. But if that's all you're going to lose, and you can get James Harden for 1 or 2 seasons, even if it's just for 2 years, because I think that's what he has left on his contract.
I believe so.
Yeah, it's worth a shot.
I think it's worth a shot, and I don't think Brooklyn's going to pull the trigger on him.
I hope no, they shouldn't.
I don't think Portland's really all that interested, even though he said that. I just don't think those guys. I don't think he fits quite as well there. Yeah, but I think him playing with Jokic could be really, really, really fun to watch, and that makes Murray a guy who's never going to be double teamed,
right?
And that's dangerous, because I don't think Murray is quite yet the guy who's the ball in his hand, game on the line, top 10 player in the league. But if Murray's your third option, then you've got a good team.
Yeah.
You'd love that, wouldn't you? That's the Denver
You would
report.
love that.
I would love it.
That's the Denver report for the day.
I would love it.
We do in-depth in Denver sports on this podcast.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's the only Denver sport I really care about. But
retro video games.
James Harden, let your cornrows out and come to Denver. Come on,
Denver. Go to
in-depth Denver sports.
There you go.
Well, we just spent 4 hours on the Jets and Giants.
This is true. This is definitely true.
Something a little bit more exciting that might actually lead to a championship before 2033.
Well, but one of those two teams is a potential playoff team, and the other is comically bad. So
but
a couple of wins.
I'm not sure which is which, though.
They're both comically bad. One just happens to be in a really shitty division.
They're worthy of some discussion, I guess.
Exactly.
Probably not as much time as we devote.
Come on, I haven't talked about the Nuggets all this most.
Listen, probably only one more week do we have to speak about the Jets and the Giants.
Yeah,
maybe a little bit longer for the Giants.
We'll be digging deep into the Memphis Grizzlies.
Grizzlies, yeah.
We got this week. They have games. If the Giants win the division, then we have another week of playoff games. Then we do one more week, our team wrap up.
Yeah.
And then we're done with the Jets and the Giants.
Exactly. Then we got playoff games to talk about, and we'll be doing more basketball. So, and as Hot Stove heats up, we'll get, obviously, as they start signing people, we'll have more.
That's
of that.
right.
So, but all right. Well, that'll wrap up the show for today. We want to thank everybody for watching, and for those of you listening to the audio podcast, thanks for listening. Don't forget to visit our website, www.logroom.com. That's LAGERROOM.com. And please remember, like us and follow us on all of our social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and our YouTube channel. All of them are at The Locker Room. Remember, we go live with the video podcast on both Facebook and YouTube every Wednesday at 7 o'clock. And for those of you that just want to listen to the and for those of you that just want to listen to the audio podcast, you can do so on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, TuneIn, and Stitcher. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to one or more of those feeds, and you will never miss a show. Again, thanks for following along with us. Have a wonderful New Year's Eve. Be safe and enjoy yourselves with whatever it is you're doing at, obviously, in a safe manner, if you will. And have a wonderful, happy, and healthy new year. Here's to a great 2021. And all that goes along with that. Hopefully, everything is starting on an uptick, folks. But we'll be with you all along. Again, have a happy new year, and we will talk to you soon. Take care, folks.
And don't forget, there's some college football being played this weekend, too.
There are. There's some, what do they call them? Bowl games or something?
Bowl games.
Playoffs, actually. They call them the playoffs.
Playoffs. They're getting ready for...
If you can, free up your Friday so you can watch a couple of games.
Yeah. That would be good. Yeah. So maybe we'll talk about a couple of them next week.
We can talk about that
instead of the Jets and the Giants.
We'll cut our NBA time down and...
That's right.
There you go. We'll cut back. We'll cut back on our Hot Stove talk next week.
Right. Top 10 Pac-10 teams that could beat the Jets.
And there's more. We'll need.
I think there's more than 10.
C, D, and E to do that.
There's only 10 in there, but there's more than 10 that can. So.
All right, peace.
All right, Happy New Year, folks. Enjoy. Take care.
And a woman in a jumpsuit throws her a grapefruit.